Happy Thursday to you. That's it, folks. Really only one day and a wake up from getting into the sweet spot that is the weekend. Right after school started, I spent a lot of time yesterday telling you about dropping Graham off at the school. Of course, I can't do that today because I'm with you good folks. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. The ever-changing weather, they've struck the lightning bolts from the clouds for today and said hot and dry, 92 degrees. Friday, 93 with lightning bolts. Saturday, lightning bolts, 90. Sunday, no even sun, just lightning bolts and 85 degrees. And then God knows what happens next week. I feel like I'm lying to you.
So no sun on Sunday. So we should just
it doesn't appear that there's sun. It just says storms likely. Yeah. Nobody knows what that means.
Possibly the apocalypse.
It could be the apocalypse. I'm pretty certain that the folks in Maui did not go there, especially the tourists, and think that this thing, I mean, some of the pictures online and the stuff, folks, if you haven't been following this thing, there is a fire that is the product. It doesn't sound like it's man-made unless you've read something different, Billy. It sounds like it's product of nature stuff, but the town of Lahaina, an old whaling village just south of Kaanapali on the west side of the island, gone. It's just completely burned to the ground, which is amazing. 36 so far is what I've said. 36 people died as a result so far of the fires, which I don't know if they're contained yet. Apparently there's a typhoon that, even though, and I think it's called Typhoon, can't remember the name now. I'm going to find it. But it is about 740 miles. Here it is. I'm sorry, not a typhoon. It's Hurricane Dora. Dora. It's Hurricane Dora, a Category 4 storm about 740 miles southwest of Honolulu. Those winds from 740 miles away, good Lord God strong, is making it very, very difficult to contain those fires. So nearly 20% of the county out there in Maui is without power. 911 had failed at one point. There's a story about people being rescued from the ocean after they had to jump into it to flee the flames as they raced across wherever it was that they were. I mean, this is crazy stuff, Billy. And I happen to remember I told you on Monday that I had just had a fantastic dinner with a buddy, Corey, big longtime listener. He's been on the show.
And he's going. His daughter's going there.
She's but they're actually going to the Big Island.
Okay.
So I had read some stories where there was there's some fires here and there. I mean, so they're right next door to where this is going on. And I reached out to him by text and just said, hey, man, are you guys affected by this? What do you know? Wanted to make sure that he was okay. And if possible, convert him into a caller. But nonetheless, craziness out there in Maui. I had even toyed around with the idea, and maybe I still am, of later this fall during the kids' fall break. I should probably run this by Kelly and Brian first. I did tell Kelly this, and we were going to try to do the show from there, from Maui.
Yeah.
You remember that? And I was going to get up, take the remote. Maybe I'll still do it, but I kind of want to know what's left of the island. I'm not interested in going to vacation on a cinder.
Yeah. When through Grand County, when all those fires ran through there, we would go back and we went through our hiking spots and things and walk through places that the family's familiar with. And that is just spooky.
Really?
Yeah, that is really scary. In fact, we found out afterwards we were in places we weren't supposed to be because we tend to ignore things like signs.
Like a woman's room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was interesting, though. One of the things that was interesting with those fires was the rocks, because the heat got so intense that the rocks cracked. And what you had a change in the top layer of the rock. And so it shattered like glass on the top. And then it was really interesting.
Revealing gold.
No, unfortunately not. No. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. Yeah. But that was interesting. So that would be not a fun place to go back and
you just picture it as paradise, man. Like maybe you have to contend with rain. Maybe there's a bad storm sometime. You never think to yourself, oh, this place is going to burn.
Yeah, never. Never think of that.
And for those that have never been to Maui or even Hawaii, every island is a little bit different. I've been fortunate. And Alexa texted in swiper, no swiping from the Dora reference. Thank you.
Oh, that's great.
They're each different. Oahu, and some folks think, oh, Oahu is Hawaii. There is an island called Hawaii. It's the Big Island. But Oahu is the island that has Waikiki on it. It's the one with the military bases, the big ones, Pearl Harbor, Schofield, Wheeler. I'm probably leaving out the Air Force ones because, who cares? No, I'm kidding, because I just don't know them. But it's a little more built up. There's still some cool places. It's where Lost was filmed. Great show on the kind of like the northeast. There's the southwest windward side of Kailua, which is great. But that's a very different island. Then you go to Kauai. Kauai is far less built up, far less resorty. They do have resorts, but in between, a lot more. You feel like you could get lost in there, much to your peril. And also that you're the first person to have ever done whatever it is that you're doing. Maui, very resorty. Have you been out there, Billy, at all?
No, never been there. Nope.
Well, buddy, we got to figure out a way to get 710 to send us out there to be the on-ground reporters.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe not this month.
Probably not.
Probably
not this month.
Maybe as the stock market shifts. But Maui, where this took place, very resorty, and the western slope has some of the most. And I'm going back 25 years for this, maybe more than that. The most elaborate, awesome resort pools that are just across the beach from the ocean. And anyway, phenomenal place. Haleakala is on there, and it's this big thing where the legend is that this Hawaiian god, whatever his name is, was able to grab the rays of the sun and kind of harness it to pull it in. And beautiful thing. You get driven up there and you ride the bikes down, or you ride the bikes up if you have the guts and conditioning to do it. But people go up, and now it's I'm seeing pictures of this thing. There's some right now on Fox, and I'm just like, good gravy, man. This looks like a scene out of Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, and Hawaii is the only U.S. state in which you have a actual palace that's part of the contiguous United States.
Is Hawaii. That true?
Yeah, because
I've never been there.
They originally had it was a king. They originally had a monarchy, and so they actually have So they have a palace. There's actually two on the islands. There's one that's the main palace and then a secondary palace. But again, trivia question: if there's any state or any location in the United States in which we have a palace, it is Hawaii. That'll help you next time you're playing. Just letting you know.
Let me just say that the loyalty of the listeners here is wonderful, because at the same time, and I know they're listening, at the same time, Alexa's texting us the good stuff. Like, here's one. Imagine if all those burned cars in the Hawaii photos were electric cars. What happens when hundreds of EVs catch on fire? Great environmental question. Yeah. Someone right after her texts, Alexa was on Dan Capla's show yesterday.
So, I think we're gonna have to block
which tells
her.
Me at least two people were listening to.
Yes, exactly. Both of them had fun.
I love our listeners, man, so much. And by the way, you know what? If you're a longtime listener out there and you're a participant in the show or not, you just love it. Do me a favor. Come say hi at this Dennis Prager thing. Honestly, just go get the ticket at 710knus.com. Come up. Billy, I know you work like about 18 hours a day.
Yeah.
Are you ever going to be able to swing by this thing?
No, not at all. And I'm
working
sure
the whole time.
Everyone's going to be so sad and disappointed. There's going to be lots of
I will be sad and disappointed.
There'll be people doing shots at the fact that I am not there. That is okay.
Mostly penicillin. But there will be. I think that's in preparation for my delivery on the stage, because apparently
penicillin tequila mixture, as we've got going. It's called the Billy.
There's going to be Dennis Prager, and I presume all the hosts will be there. And at this point, I say presume because for the last 2 days, I've been announcing 3 o'clock Deb Flora, 4 o'clock Steven. None of that's been true, apparently. So apparently Jimmy's going to fill in for Deb today.
Excellent. Good.
And I pointed out to Tom minutes ago, you never see Deb and Jimmy in the same place at the same time.
Oh,
have you noticed that?
It's kind of a Scooby-Doo thing.
It's a weird thing. Like you're going to pull off Jimmy's mask and be like, Deb, Joyks.
Yeah.
You know?
I would have gotten away
meddling
with this.
kids.
Yeah, if it wasn't for you meddling kids and that dog.
And then in the 4 o'clock hour, I think it was Alexa who may have said, it's not Tubbs again today. I just don't know. I don't think he's in today. But Randy was in the last 2 days. And I listened to Randy. And he had on, I told you yesterday, he had on somebody named John Eastman, who I'm pretty sure is. I've heard of him too. I think they're suing Jenna Griswold together over this open primary thing. Now, honestly, that is a completely legitimate way to go about challenging the law, and I support that. That's where I want us to do our fights, man. Let's go to the court, and if we think if we can't change the law, then let's go get someone to interpret the law in a way that's consistent with the Constitution. not this thing that happened last Saturday, which is, what if we folded this part of the law on top of itself and then bent it that way? Doesn't it look like a pterodactyl? Like,
yeah, I was at the vote on Saturday, the idea, and especially the Bonnewell Amendment, the idea that a no vote would be counted as a yes, or not a no vote, just an abstention would be counted as a yes, I thought was a very difficult platform to argue for. I understand why it is a unique situation, but let's put on our pretend hats just for a second, and let's pretend that the Democrats get wind of this kind of an idea. What happens if, I don't know, heroine Barbie Brittany Pedersen gets wind of this and this idea and thinks it's fantastic and proposes it to our state legislature, that because the drug problem is so out of control, and it's obvious in Colorado that we don't just care enough.
We don't care enough.
In order to make sure that we care enough, we have to have these safe drug injection sites. And so what we need to do, because this is such an unusual problem that we are facing, it calls for unique and unusual solutions. What we have to do is on the ballot, just for this one measure, only this one, what we would do is change the rules so that of the voting population, out of all the registered voters, those that do not cast a ballot would be interpreted as voting in favor of the safe injection sites. That's how we have to interpret it, because this is such an unusual situation and circumstance.
I don't think I'd like it.
It requires special sorts of rules in order to change how we normally count votes. I'm just saying that if you think the idea of changing it because you disagree with this 75% rule, okay, I get it. But if you think it's a great idea, let's take that and put that in other situations and circumstances and see if you still think it's right. And I'm guessing you probably don't.
Like it. No.
I don't at all. I was never for it, and I think it's a dumb idea. And thank goodness the Democrats at least hopefully weren't paying attention.
It's an expression, though, of the level of frustration, more than 50% of the vote. The level of frustration that we have with a system that I think folks feel like was forced on us, and we're put in this crippling position and not be able to do anything about it. However, there's this court case. So Randy and
that's the way to attack it.
Randy and Eastman were on yesterday on Randy's show, and you can of course listen to the podcast. Look for Steph in it. I can't remember what time I was in the car. I was going to pick up Graham, I think, from cross country. So it was 4 or 5. And they had a conversation that actually reflected upon some of the stuff we talked about with Dave Williams. And Dave was on yesterday too. So interesting information. Some of the stuff that started on our show, I think others probably took and twisted around and stuff like that. But
yeah, I've heard some things, misinterpreting some things.
Yeah, one of the things that was interesting was both Randy and John Eastman were like, where did this story start about it costing $250,000 to litigate this case? And I was like, my show? Yeah. Because pretty sure that's what D-Will said on our show.
The party chair.
I mean, the party chair said it on our show. So
the party chair said that $50,000 had already been outlaid.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if the checks have arrived or they have been cashed, but according to the party, a $50,000 movement has gone from the asset column into the debit column.
Now, I also think, though, that they'd raise money outside of the normal fund the party mechanism, because Senator Kevin Lundberg is heading that effort. I presume it was some other kind of a third party effort, not third party, forgive me, an outside, I don't know, fundraising account or something like that they had. But anyway, so I listened to Randy, and Stefan wasn't on, and I thought to myself, the hell's going on? Like that, I don't know this. I don't know. So who's going to be on for Stefan today at 4? I think we should turn an entire segment into who would you like to see fill in for Stefan?
Oh, geez.
And just, folks,
I want to see Phil Weiser.
You know what I do too.
Yeah. I think that'd be fun. That'd be real fun.
Yeah. By the way,
take phone calls from the audience. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Phil also did not fare well once again in court.
Oh, no. Yet again?
Yeah, listen.
I mean, he's got a batting average close to the Rockies.
It's becoming a bit concerning just at how much he is not doing well. But there was a lawsuit filed by our friends over at Advanced Colorado, of which I used to be the president of the academy, and our buddy Michael Fields is the president of the institute. And Michael and his group, they just, when they fixate on doing something, you're in trouble. That's the problem. And so they made the
decision. I find that with kids too. Just saying.
That's right. So there was a lawsuit that was filed that challenged this Senate bill. Maybe we'll talk about this in another segment too, because it just makes me smile. Senate Bill 21260. That tells you that it's old because it's back in 2021. This lawsuit was filed in April 2022, filed by Advanced Colorado Institute, and they always throw on a couple people. Here's what it is. This bill in 2021 was controversial at the time, created 4 state enterprises. And those enterprises significant because of past court cases and other stuff. The legislatures figured out a way. How can we do an end run around Tabor? Well, we won't call it a tax. And we'll have a specifically designated enterprise pool of money that this thing goes to, and therefore it won't be counted as a tax. It's a $5.4 billion 10-year plan that was all focused on roads and bridges. And by the way, I think we need roads and bridges.
Yes.
They were going to create electrical vehicle charging stations. Whatever, don't care. Boost mass transit. We can debate that because a lot of it is, hey, let's put in a whole bunch of bike lanes. And I'm like, really? Instead of car lanes? I'm like, that's exactly what rural Colorado needs. I can't tell you how many times I've been in the car for hours to get to Burlington. And when I get there, people say, did you bike here?
Yeah. Exactly.
No, I didn't. And they're like, you know why you didn't?
Yeah.
No bike lanes.
Yes,
like,
exactly. That's
that and the hundreds of miles really kept me from biking out here.
Only 2 reasons.
So
the only reason you don't bike to go to the ski resorts in the winter is because there are no bike lanes on I-70. That's the problem. That's the issue. If we would just put bike lanes on I-70, no traffic during the winter. Isn't that right?
So, but this is the best part of this thing so far. All right. So Fields and the advanced guys, there was a Proposition 117 back in 2020, just a few years ago. And if you'll remember that one, that's the one that said, okay, legislature doing an end run around Tabor. We got voter approval because, the legislature would never put this on. So Proposition 117 said we need voter approval for any new fees for enterprises that generate more than $100 million in revenue in the first 5 years. Remember, this is $5.4 billion in 10 years. And they did it by creating several enterprises, but they did it in one bill. And so when Advanced Colorado files a suit, they're like, hang on. You can't do it this way. You have to have single subject bills like everything else. This creates 4 separate things. So Phil showed up with his guys at the state of Colorado and said, well, this should be dismissed, blah, blah, blah. Well, a judge yesterday, a Denver judge, by the way, denied that motion to dismiss. So this thing is going to proceed on, it looks like, to, I don't think it's a jury trial, but whatever they do with these kinds of cases when they get in front of a judge, whatever they call that, I don't know if it's a trial or not, but they're going to do this. And then, of course, Michael's got a quote here, voters passed Proposition 117 to make sure they had a say when it comes to big fees. Since 260 is a $5.4 billion fee increase over the next decade, voter approval was necessary before it could become law. We're happy to see the judge deny the motion to dismiss and allow this important case to continue. It caught my eye for a couple of reasons. One, I'm a big Tabor fan, and I don't like the way the legislature tries to do an end run around the will of voters. But the other one is, this dude, our attorney general, has been getting beaten about the face and neck by any judge out there on things. It was the Supreme Court, even the libs on the Supreme Court crushing his arguments, him jumping in on with amicus on things, and now at the state level just getting beaten. I'm like, what's going on?
Has he tried using the whiteboard that he uses in his commercials? Maybe that's the problem.
You know what? Maybe they need to take the whiteboard.
He's not doing the whiteboard. Yeah. Maybe that's it. Now we would reach out to Phil's office. But however,
and by the way, we have.
Yes, we have. But they have given us a standing response. Finally, the office has decided that, yes, they have agreed that they will come on the air. Yes. But they said there is a condition.
What?
First, the Rockies have to win the World Series. So that was the condition I got from them. So, of course, they wrote that back very snarky.
Yeah.
And so my response was to send them this GIF. Yeah, I sent that back to them, of course.
Of course. Never come on.
No, they never will.
I just want to make it clear that because I feel like I need to for all the haters out there. Phil beat me in a very fair election held in 2018. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
I also want to make clear this. There's no interview I'd run away from. If I was in Phil's position, I never ran away from one when I was DA. I mean, if I thought that someone was out there sharpening the knives for me, I'd say, let's do this, man. Let's come out there and have this conversation. Yeah. I don't get why he only wants to go to happy venues. Meanwhile, I check his Twitter feed. No word about getting kicked in the legal junk on this, but instead just continuing to harp on this Kroger-Safeway merger.
I just, if he feels that we are being unfair, come and outline that. We're not going to sit here and bash and throw rocks, and we don't. Okay, we do make fun. We do. We will poke fun.
Of course we do.
Inside of a regular interview, it would be stand up. It would be, here are the issues that we've got. Here's why. And that's how you handle things. But, look, we got to wait until the Rockies win.
I've never hung up on an interview.
Yeah.
Even the interview with like Dinesh D'Souza, which was a Hallmark one only because it was super uncomfortable for one of us who wasn't the host of the show. Even that was completely respectfully done. The only person I can think of hanging up on is Screaming Mary. Do you remember that when Mary called in and just went bonkers on the radio? That's the only one I can think of where I was like, there's nowhere to go from here. But otherwise, Phil, I know you don't listen to the radio because you're probably not up before noon. But for those folks that are on Phil's behalf, tell him I will treat him completely respectfully, just like I have every other Democrat that's come on here. It makes no difference to me that he beat me in a completely fair election in 2018, where all the votes that should have been counted were counted. I just want to have the conversation about this. I want to put all these losses in perspective. I want to know why they can't seem to buy a win at this point. It seems like his gubernatorial campaign running around the state, getting feedback on the Kroger-Safeway merger is the only thing he talks about at this point. That and standing up for abortions.
Yeah. And that Kroger-Safeway merger, that seems, I don't know. For me, seems like kind of a bad idea. I
think to the extent that it affects prices of food, and it makes them worse. Yeah. Screw that.
This is the thing for me is that again, this is about market competition. And I really want someone to explain to me how the market is going to be served with better competition when Kroger and Safeway merge. I need someone to explain that to me. I understand the idea of market efficiencies. I understand why this makes the companies leaner. I understand why it'll make the companies more profitable. But let's examine what has happened with market forces and, I don't know, radio. Yes, radio. Let's look at that. Remember when we decided that we were going to create market efficiencies by letting groups of stations be owned by large companies rather than smaller companies, or at least even the big companies.
There are legit economies of scale. That's
yes,
true.
There are. There is absolutely. But the argument that I have is, show me that is effective and better for the consumer when you have less competition. That's the issue I've got in this entire Kroger Safeway thing. But then again, I disagree on some levels as far as competition, because I believe that there are going to be some products in there that, because what Amazon's doing is Amazon's facilitating some of these smaller businesses being able to sell stuff. And there are some things with the idea of putting the goods and services for things like, Mark Schler's a stinking green chili on the shelves.
Yeah.
But the bottom line on that is, do we think that we are finding the absolute best possible price all the time from Amazon? And I would disagree with that, because Amazon does have to make their pound of flesh. And there are times in which they keep other possible competitors outside of the market. I don't think, now, while it is efficient and it is easy for us, I disagree that it has increased competition. And the idea for me is that's what we're looking for, is we want to have more competition inside of the market. And when the two largest grocers merge, I disagree that is going to lead to better competition, better selection, better pricing.
There's some reason it's happening.
Better anything for me.
I want to know what that is.
Yeah, because the companies can make more money if they are only one company. Because guess what they don't have to do? Compete with each other.
Yeah, but that's been true for decades. Imagine, and they haven't done it.
I know. So, they haven't, but that's okay. The Denver Broncos, if we didn't have to play the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Diego Chargers, we'd have a really good shot at winning the division. If we just eliminated the Raiders as well.
Last year's team would not.
Yeah, but even then, if we eliminate the Raiders, now we're like, hey,
50-50.
No competition. We can win this thing. That's the idea. Yeah, the companies like this a lot because lack of competition makes things much, 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 much easier for them. Just tell me that somehow we're going to get
true,
better.
Though, why didn't it happen 10 years ago? There's some change that's causing them to reassess the market. And I don't know what that is. Like Albertsons, remember we used to have Albertsons.
Yeah.
And then Albertsons got swallowed up. And so there used to be all these different things. There's a Whole Foods out there. So there's still competition, especially if you're willing to pay $8 for a carrot.
But here's the idea is at the time, I think there was some idea inside of the market.
And
the companies wanted to compete against each other and they wanted to be dominant. There was this idea of competition. Now the companies are looking at each other going, you know what? If we just joined forces, we could make so much more money. You would be richer. I would be richer. People running the company. That'd be great. Is it better for the consumer? I haven't seen that argument yet.
What if part of it is, and maybe we ought to get some smarty smarts on here to talk about this. It's, listen, the way things are going, this model that we have right now is unsustainable. And we are not going to be able to continue to provide. We're going to have to close stores, or we're going to have to. I mean, what if that's part of the economics of this? Is that, hey, trucking, there was a whole trucking company, one of the biggest trucking companies in America just went kaput. And they're like, look, we can't do this anymore. We're not going to be able to compete.
But we need to dive into Yellow a little bit deeper.
What's Yellow?
That's the company that went bankrupt.
Oh, Yellow. Okay, the truck.
Yellow. We have to dive into them a little bit deeper, because remember this. This is a company that was having problems paying their bills. They were close to bankruptcy before COVID. Okay, so that is the extent. That is what was happening before in the market. They applied for $700 million in the COVID relief funds for the PPP loans. So they applied to it. They got $700 million.
I did not.
There were branches in the government that said, excuse me, don't give them that money because their books aren't balanced right now.
Yeah, they're having trouble.
Yeah,
that's right.
So maybe giving them all this money isn't going to work out so well. Surprise? The fact that the company that wasn't running well got a giant pile of cash and continued not to run well and is now bankrupt. I'm sorry. I failed to see the plot twist in this story. And so this is not a surprise. I get it. And so Yellow was already underwater. The idea that, something else happened because of that. And what I would want to hear from the companies is, tell me what is not making it tenable. Tell me why this is going to be better for the consumer if you are going to have those, and those stores are going to close anyway. I have two in my neighborhood. I have a Safeway catty corner from a King Soopers. If they merge, they don't need two stores there. One of those stores will close. So this idea that, oh my God, if we don't do this, stores are going to have to close. Stores are going to close anyway. Based on geographic preferences, they're going to draw a map and say, we know the average grocery consumer travels X number of miles to a store. If we have two stores inside of that circle, one of them gets closed. That's what's going to happen. Stores will close anyway. So the idea is going to prevent stores from closing. I disagree with. What I think it ends up with is that the consumer has fewer choices, and the consumer is going to end up with higher prices. Because again, in my neighborhood, I can't go across the street and go to the Safeway if King Soopers has stuff that is too expensive for me. And I do that inside of right now inside the market. Safeway's boxed goods, dry goods, way too expensive. King Soopers is much better and much more efficient on dry goods. However, produce and meat, Safeway is better priced 9 times out of 10. So in my neighborhood, at least. So there is some market pull and push there. If one of those stores goes away, I'm paying the highest price across the board. I'm going to pay the highest price for dry goods, highest price for meat, highest price for produce.
What if one of them goes away anyway?
Yeah, it may happen. It may happen that way. But so far, competition is keeping them open. And there are times I wonder how the Safeway stays open. I absolutely do wonder. Yeah. But then again, if one of them is going to go away anyway, then I'm at the same point. The idea of whether or not one company owns them or two companies owns them, I'm still at the same point. So I disagree that it would be better by having the one company.
Well, we're going to have to find out.
I don't care.
This has become the vehicle, but buddy, I think we're coming up on our record.
Crap, look at that.
For God's sake. This has become the vehicle for future gubernatorial candidate Phil Weiser to get around the state and rub elbows with people and say, I am deeply committed to hearing you and feeling your pain in that way that only Bill Clinton could do up until now. That's 30 years ago, folks. But in court here in the state of Colorado, getting tagged a lot right in the kisser. Another case, Advanced Colorado, anxious to see how that turns out. Oh, also the Elijah McClain cases. First one set to go to trial on 2 of those Aurora officers in September. I would love to be able to sit and watch that case proceed. Very, very interesting, very important case for the community. Listen, we have gone so late. It's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs coming up on the record. Let's not do that because I want to do the Thorpe Report and you choose the news. So everybody stick around. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain first-hand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
Heyo! George Brauchler back with you here. No idea where heyo came from. It felt it. I felt it, and I just, whatever. Anyway, George Brauchler back with you here. George Show, 710 KNUS. I really have, once again, hosed Billy, actually by letting him just go on and on about how much he loves the idea of the Kroger-Safeway merger.
Yeah, that was my fault.
We're going to call it the Kroger-Safeway Thorpe merger for purposes of christening this bad boy. Anyway, listen, Thorpe Report, William.
All righty, thank you, sir. We're going to see a warmer day today, slight increase in monsoonal moisture. That's fun to say. Monsoonal.
Rather than later.
Yeah. We will also see a slightly better chance of late storms. Then a chance in the forecast at the end of the week to head into the weekend. Storms as well. Hot by Sunday. Weak cool system is going to brush our state just ever so slightly and cool our daytime highs with just a few degrees, both Sunday and Monday. Rest of the week, next week is going to be back to warmer, wetter conditions. Expect some storms later in the afternoons. Winter weather is making a comeback, according to the Farmer's Almanac. It's been released and has their extended weather forecast. It's a tradition that dates back to 1918. Now, we're not going to talk about Colorado. It just says, after last year's warmer weather, cool temperatures, and snowy weather conditions, we will return to regular, heavier snow in the contiguous United States. So last winter, a little bit lighter. This one is supposed to be a usual one. Deputies from the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office arrived at an apartment located in the 7300 block of South Alclair Street. Alclair Street? I have never seen this one before. Alkire. Oh, well. 9:45 p.m. in response to a 911 call. One of the residents claimed that he had been shot multiple times inside his apartment. Deputies found the man suffering from gunshot wounds inside the apartment, provided first aid. He was taken to the hospital in critical but stable condition. The victim's roommate, 36-year-old Ryan Moore, shared the apartment with the victim, and he is currently being held in custody. So that the investigation is ongoing. The deadly explosion in Firestone a few years ago. Two men died because the old leaky gas line by the company after a well stopped producing. Well, Colorado passed new rules for the oil and gas industry known as financial assurance. Before companies can drill new wells, they need to give the state money up front to cover more of the cost at capping and cleaning up old wells and gas wells that aren't producing anymore, including wells that have been abandoned by the owners. Difference is that before it was you and I, the taxpayers, picking up that charge to cap them off. So now it's going to be the companies. So elsewhere, a suspected thief who was not invited to a party was caught on camera. He was crashing a wedding in Westminster.
What?
What he did is, you know how they have the gift table?
Yeah.
He just walked up during the reception.
Took the blender.
And decided to take all the gift cards and everything else. He took the cards and a bunch of presents and walked out. They do have pictures of him. They're investigating the theft, which occurred Sunday at a venue on Wadsworth Boulevard. He did kind of try to pull off something that made him look official. He was wearing one of those orange reflector vests, too. So, you wear a shiny orange reflector vest, people don't ask you what you're doing. Several tornadoes were reported in Yuma County yesterday evening. One of them hit a property just south of town. It was a direct hit. A 16-year-old was home alone with her two younger brothers, aged 11 and 12. Parents called her, said a tornado was headed straight for them. So they thought, my first thought is how I can protect them. They put on their bike helmets and went to the basement and rode out the tornado. They said it sounded like a series of loud explosions. Water started pouring into the basement and it ripped the roof off of that house. So in many ways, the older sibling may have saved the younger ones. Kind of cool. This is a really difficult story.
Speaking of crashing, by the way.
Yes.
Did you read the story about the driving instructor who crashed through the driver instructor?
Yes. Yeah. Showed up for work and comes along right through. Yes, that's great. A driving instructor goes through the windows at the driving instructor facility where they work. That's fantastic. This is kind of difficult to talk about, but a man who gouged his eyes out during a mental health crisis while incarcerated in the Boulder County Jail back in 2016 has reached a $2.5 million settlement with the county. Ryan Partridge was named the Boulder County Sheriff and several other administrators from the jail. The issue is that he had some mental health problems and they let it go untreated. He was having a deep, severe schizophrenic psychosis and harmed himself previously while incarcerated, and he had a history of not taking his medication. They didn't properly tend to him, and so he gouged his own eyes out, and the county's now going to have to pay $2.5 million. And this is awful. A 78-year-old.
So hold on.
Yeah.
Because they didn't treat him, dude gouges his eyes out, and now they have to pay.
Yeah, now they have to pay. Yeah.
Because if he hadn't been in jail, he would have gouged his eyes out somewhere else.
I think the idea is that they didn't provide the medical care and medication that he needed at that time. So again, if you're not going to let him have access to the medication and access to treatment, you got to provide it for him if you're going to keep him in the little box. But again, if he's responsible for gouging his eyes out if he has the choice to go ahead and seek medical care and or gets his own medication. But when he can't do that, I think that's where the lawsuits kind of that was the fulcrum. A 78-year-old Texas woman suffered multiple injuries after she fell 40 feet off a cliff while taking, those popular photos near Telluride. The sheriff said the team in the Telluride Fire Protection Department and the search and rescue team dispatched sometime on Wednesday to Last Dollar Road near Telluride, and they saved her. But she fell down. That's not good.
No, that's not.
That's all I've got.
Okay, listen,
that's it.
I think we've made up enough time there with that fast-paced reading. Although I do love the story of the driving instructor driving.
Oh, that's wonderful.
This is what you don't do, Timmy. Buckle up, right there. Take your foot off the accelerator. Listen, stick around. We're going to do the good stuff. That's the only really produced portion of the show. It's the most popular portion of the show. And because you're the 6 a.m. listener, you get the benefit of it. It's called the You Choose the News. Stick around. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. It's time for You Choose the News, William.
Oh, thank you, sir. Yes, it is time for everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. We have scoured the interwebs for really stupid things we have done as humans, giving them even dumber headlines to play this fake radio news game because, well, the powers that be are actually down the hall over there, so don't tell them we're doing this. Just keep the radio down for me, okay? Just a little bit lower volume.
There it is. Thank you.
Alrighty, sir. Okay, here are your choices this morning. Headline number 1, immediate emergency. Headline number 2, soap. Headline number 3, a delicious passing or fatal fromage. And headline number 4, local government in action. Alrighty, your choices once again are immediate emergency, soap, a delicious passing or fatal fromage, and local government in action. Your choice.
Soap.
Soap. Well, we are going to meet the owner of Sunrise Diner, a gentleman named Sam. And here recently, he had an interview with WBAL-TV to talk about a unique venture that sort of spawned out of his diner, something that'll help keep you clean. Yes. Did you catch that?
What?
Bacon soap. He is doing bacon soap.
Wait a minute.
Yes, Bumble soap is made from bacon.
Isn't that very, very close to Fight Club soap?
Yeah, it kind of is. It is. But the idea is he learned this recipe from grandma's past. He learned it from his grandfather. And they take the rendered bacon fat.
Yeah.
He drains it off and then puts it into water, boils it a little bit, and lets it settle. And all the impurities and smell drop into the water. He then scrapes off the lard, does it 2 or 3 times, and by then you have pure lard. He then adds scents and other things into it and makes soap.
But you lose the bacon
soap.
smell?
Yeah, you do.
Man, if you could smell like bacon, how much happier would your day be if you could stick your nose down by your armpit and be like,
like
bacon.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Although all the dogs would come over and try to lick difficult places. I'm just saying. Maybe that's a plus or a minus.
Hello.
I'm not sure how you work. All righty. So, yeah, bacon soap. All righty. Next choice, sir.
Local government in action, please.
Local government in action. Here we're talking about the Portland Bureau of Transportation. A few years ago, they used federal infrastructure dollars to plant more than 30 saplings in this beautiful grassy triangle in East Portland. There were Japanese maples, redwoods, Douglas firs, and they paid a year-long contract to have the person that planted them water the trees. Well, just about March 31st of this year, that contract ran out.
Oh.
And the city decided, let's see how the trees do on their own. They've decided not to water them, strangely enough, and now the trees are dying. So they're going to have to rip out all the trees they planted a couple of years ago as saplings. Whoa. And, yeah, again, government in action. They were paying somebody to do it. When it was their job to do it, they decided, not so much. So, yeah, the trees are dying. So, yeah, that's great.
Well,
good job, government.
Thank you, government.
I know.
More taxes,
that
please.
That shows so many things about the government operations. All righty, final choice this morning. Immediate emergency or a delicious passing fatal fromage?
Immediate emergency.
Immediate emergency. We're traveling to Memphis, Tennessee for this one.
Did I hit the one with the sound?
That was the one that said we did the bacon soap.
Oh, the bacon soap.
See,
oh,
that
was
soap.
it. I was thinking there was going to be one. Like,
no, that was a bacon soap. A man has been detained after police say that he absconded with an ambulance. Memphis police reported a call to Crittenden County Ambulance. A statement on Facebook. The EMTs were at an ambulance bay at the hospital when a man just walked up because they left it unlocked and he drove away. Then he managed to hit a pedestrian, creating his own emergency, continued on his way, and then crashed into multiple vehicles. I just think that, he hit the pedestrian and then he kept going. I'm like, how bad would that be as a pedestrian? To all of a sudden, like, hey, here comes the ambulance. Ow, 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 ow. Wait, stop. Excuse me. Hey,
what was that guy doing in the road?
Yeah, exactly. But to see the ambulance continue on after hitting you, that's just awful.
Please come back.
Yes. Oh, that is it. That is the end of You Choose the News. As always, George is our winner. But I'm your perennial loser. What are we doing today? Yes, we are sponsored today by Target. You've seen those Pride Month displays. Yes, today we are advertising Target's T-shirt that'll turn you gay. It comes in 10 fashion colors, has a rainbow on front and says pride.
Promise.
If you're in the store and you see it, well, you're only temporarily gay. But if you actually wear Target's t-shirt, congratulations, you are now perma-gay, or at least trans. Because we know that with everybody, your sexuality is a choice. Yep, shop wisely, because Target sells a t-shirt that obviously will turn you gay. Alrighty, back to you, sir.
Perma-gay? It feels like a product in and of itself. Like, what are you going to put on that rash? I think I'm going to put perma-gay. That might take that right off. Hey, listen, when we come back, Anthony Hartsook, he's a representative from Douglas County talking about the Colorado option. It sucks. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Well, happy second hour of the Thursday show on the George Show 710 KNUS. I'll be with you till 10. Chuck Kirk at 10 to 11. And then we go Dennis Prager, who's going to be with us on the 30th for the third annual Dennis Prager Cigar and Hugs Night. I may have thrown in one of those words or two of them. You can be a part of it. You can come out there and see the hosts that you love the most. And I'll be there too. But it is August 30th out at the View House in Centennial, right off of I-25. You can get the ticks at 710knus.com, which is coincidentally the place where you can text us, as well as the 710 KNUS app. You get your first drink for free, a premium cigar. There's like a carving station. There's something called horse dovers. No, it's hors d'oeuvres. And general camaraderie with the other 710 listeners out there. I'll be out there. They've foolishly decided to give me apparently more of an introductory role in terms of saying things on the stage. I just want to apologize in advance for anything I'll have done that either offended you or caused you to stop listening to the show. Usually that takes place while I'm on air, but I'm just saying it could happen on the 30th to be a witness to it. Now, listen, we have on the phone someone who's not even in the state of Colorado right now, even though he represents a good chunk of the state of Colorado, including that place where I live. His name is Tony Hartsook. He is a representative out of Douglas County. Sir, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, George. Thanks for having us this morning.
Hey, now listen, a lot of people know you as Dr. Julia's husband. And I just think that
yeah.
you should know that she should know that too. But you're not in Colorado right now. I was going to give you a chance to do a little bragging on your boy if you wanted to.
Oh, would love to. Thank you. Yeah. We're currently on the Tennessee highway here, heading east between Nashville and Knoxville. We're heading to Charleston, South Carolina, where he will be starting at the Citadel Military Academy on Saturday.
Now, that's a big deal, buddy. That's such a big deal.
Huge deal. Going to go on and keep the tradition going, and very, very proud of him.
Now, you say the tradition going. I talk about it whenever you're on the radio, but tell us what's that tradition that he's keeping going?
The military is serving our country. I served 26 years on active duty and retired. My wife, Julia, was on active duty for 12 and then went into the National Guard, where she is currently the state surgeon. She heads up the trauma team for Centura and also has a private practice there in Parker and in the Denver Tech Center.
And as a child, she was the model for Herbie the dentist in the old Rudolph the Red-Nosed Ranger. I want to be a dentist. she hates that.
So but she snaps you next time she sees you, that's on you.
Congratulations, man. I'm excited for your boy. I can't imagine what it's like to be going into an environment like that, because it'll be so different from the one that he's experienced in beautiful Douglas and Elbert counties growing up.
Yeah, he's listening as we're driving down the road. He's driving right now, in case everybody's wondering. I'm riding shotgun here in the passenger seat.
Holy scary. No, I'm kidding. I'm sure he's a great driver too. Has he gotten the haircut yet, or is he saving it for that Stripes-like moment when they shave him?
Yeah, that all takes place Saturday morning.
Man, that's fantastic. Well, congratulations. And thank you for taking time out of this drive with your son through Tennessee to give us a call. Now, you had a column. I was taken with this thing. It just got published within the last couple days, really. And it's called "The Colorado Option is Not Working." And I'm glad you wrote this, because I think this thing had a tendency to fall off of some people's radars, because there was a ton of controversy when it was launched and with the legislature and how they did it. But nobody has really taken a deep dive to revisit this thing. Tell us, first off, tell listeners, what is the Colorado Option and what did you discover about this thing?
So I sit on the healthcare insurance committee. Is one of the committees that I sit on. The option was passed prior to our coming into office, and it's basically a government option that mandates spin-off from the Affordable Health Care Act that says, hey, Colorado's going to put up, the government's going to be a backed option. And one of the strange things they put in there is to lower rates. They said, we're going to mandate these rates that insurers charge on the Colorado option. And they set certain percentages and goals on there. And this is where the reality hits the road. Is nobody in the business world, we've got inflation that's been skyrocketing. We have everything that's up, fuel, food, you name it, our energy costs, everything is skyrocketing. And the state was mandating the insurance premiums go down. But insurance companies can't do that and make a profit. So what happens? People start pulling out of the market. We've seen some other issues, not totally related to this, but one could look at it and go, when Friday Healthcare went insolvent and pulled out of Texas and here in Colorado, that forces other insurers to pick up their consumers. And it's because you can't charge a fair price to make a profit. Everybody says, well, they're charging too much. And I'm like, I get it that healthcare is very expensive because we've got so much bureaucracy on top of it. We don't have competition. We don't have transparency. One of the bills that we push through are trying to enact some transparency so we can see what's going on. Some of it's with the dental loss ratio, some of it's the medical loss ratio. So consumers and small businesses can see what they're being charged out there and find a better option. It certainly is not the Colorado option.
The Colorado option, does it mandate a certain basket of benefits? Like it says you will offer this at this,
correct.
And yeah, that basket of options, is it attractive to people? I mean, is it what people want?
Well, based on the results, I mean, if people aren't buying something, if people don't buy a car, if they don't buy a piece of furniture, then businesses go, oh, this is not what people want. But in this case of insurance, the government's response was, oh, let's just force them to sell this, and we're going to force them to offer these options. We're going to force them to put it at this rate. And that's not what people ask for. That's not what they're looking for. That's not what they can afford. It's not what they need.
Now, there were two different things here that you referenced, and there's links to this article if people want to go to the Denver Post and look for Representative Hartsook's column. One is a report that the Common Sense Institute released. And while I do stuff for them, I only do the criminal stuff. I don't really do this other stuff. But it says, do final Colorado option rates deliver on the promise of consumer savings? That was last year. And then some other actuarial study completed by Novarest. What are the findings of these things as they weigh upon whether or not the Colorado option is successful?
Yeah, the Common Sense Institute and Novarest did great studies. And the short of it, I mean, they look, it's pretty simple when you look at the graphs in there, is the net result is it failed. It didn't deliver lower rates. It didn't deliver competition. It didn't deliver what people needed. In my opinion, it's pretty much an abject failure. We compete with sports teams. We compete. We like to pick the winner in sports teams. We have competitions when you're trying to get a job. We have competitions in school. Why don't we have competitions in the insurance market where we let insurers and consumers and providers decide what's going to be the cost, what do the consumers decide what they need, and then they pick and choose instead of the government saying, this is what you have to sell, and this is what the price you have to sell it at.
Now, this is also an important part of the column, too. The government doesn't just take your criticisms lying down. They want to blame somebody for the failures of the Colorado option to deliver on the consumer savings part. Who are they blaming?
Oh, we used to see this all the time where they, traditionally, for whatever reason, I mean, government tends to hate businesses. Providers, they look at it and go, oh, you guys make all of this money. Well, they also have a lot of costs. So they blame insurance carriers. They blame providers for charging things. And if providers can't make a living, or if they're burdened with so much bureaucracy, we're starting to see there's fewer people applying to go to medical school. There's fewer people wanting to become doctors and surgeons, whether it's primary care or specialties. And my big concern is that in the long-term future, that's going to have a net decrease of healthcare providers across the board as the population continues to increase. And we're going to have a bigger shortage. This is where we need to have transparency and competition instead of government pointing fingers and mandating this is what you're going to do. Price setting and rate setting has never, ever worked.
No, that's right. You're right. And that's actually what was said at the time that these House bills were proposed, was that this is not going to work. And it turns out that is true. Again, one of the other things here, it says that the Colorado option was going to have cost savings, not just by forcing people to buy it, but and forcing insurers to create these, I guess, these products that nobody wanted, but they were going to mandate And I don't know where they got this number, Tony, that they were going to have a 5% reduction in the cost each year for a number of successive years. How are they going to pull that off?
I would love to know that, because I can't see it. After I retired from the Army, I did business development for a small business, service disabled, doing telecommunications. And we had to compete. We had to write our contracts when the bids would come out. We had to be able to compete against other businesses, price-wise, and materials and labor. Your prices don't keep going down. They keep increasing, as we've seen inflation. Every consumer out there is feeling the hit of inflation, and yet they're saying, oh, we got to drive these prices down. And then we wonder why businesses, health providers, health insurers go bankrupt and start pulling out of the market, or providers don't want to take the insurance because they can't get paid on anything.
It's hard to keep track of how many times the government has been right more than the market. This isn't one of them. Now, my guess is with this information, these studies, the reality of the failure of this thing, I presume the Division of Insurance is now going to look to reform the program or the law or something to allow it to be more competitive. Is that true?
Well, that I don't know. One of the bills that I helped sponsor, Senate Bill 178, and this was in the dental market, was the dental loss ratio, where we want the insurance commission, the insurance office, Department of Insurance, to look at how much is being spent on overhead and administration versus how much is being spent on actual patient care. And then that should provide consumers, and for that matter, providers, a much better analysis of, hey, I can get this insurance coverage is providing better than this A is providing more than B, so that consumers can make that choice. But whether the government does that, or does the government decide to be more heavy-handed, that's a great question. We won't know, but we're certainly going to bring that up when we have our when we go back in session. We have our hearings for the there at the legislature.
You also put in here that the Division of Insurance has hinted, along with some legislative supporters, that they're going to use rate setting on hospitals to force them into financial soundness. What in the hell does that mean?
Yeah, that's again, it comes down where the government, there were discussions this last session where they were talking about, oh, we're going to make these rates. This is what people are going to charge. And here's the interesting part. Not only did it come out in the Denver Post, it came out in the Greeley Tribune. This really impacts rural Colorado. You get outside of the metro area where we have a fair amount of choices of hospitals and providers. And you get in rural Colorado, whether it's on the plains, the western slopes, down south, their options get far fewer than we have here in the metro area. And this impacts them severely. They don't have a bunch of options. They are limited to just a couple. And when the government starts setting rates, the big question is, I've worked with Representative Matt Soper, who represents the western slope out there from Delta. And we've had these discussions of how are they going to do this where it doesn't negatively impact certainly rural Colorado and to a lesser extent here in the metro area.
Now, this is a partisan issue or a nonpartisan issue? As you talk to the other folks, my God, out of 65 people, your team makes up 19. That's our team, of course. Have you heard from Democrats? They're concerned too, or is this a party line type of thing?
That's a great question. It's been interesting. Some of the sidebar conversations, they are concerned too, but they have not been willing to do the overhaul. The insurance commissioner and Governor Polis's office is, as far as we can see, pretty much driving the train on this. Where it's going to go, I'm not sure. I wish I had a better answer, but it's kind of, everybody can look at this and go, yeah, this is a problem. Unfortunately, what we see is the Democrat solution tends to be rate setting, or let's use government force to control rates and prices. And on Republicans, we're going to be more for the market and transparency, where we let consumers and small businesses decide what they need or what they want.
Yeah, how do you do that? Billy asked me in my ear. How do you accomplish that?
So one of the pieces of legislation that we recently passed, and think it was Senate Bill 252. Don't quote me on that, but
so for sure 252.
Bill.
Got it.
Yeah, you're a funny guy. One of the things, it was really interesting when Trump was president. I know there was a lot of people like things, didn't like things, but he had some great policies on insurance transparency. Well, when he didn't win the re-election, those regulations and rules he had proposed and was going to have implemented through HHS never materialized. We took, through bipartisan support here in Colorado, and put those rules, put some teeth behind them and saying, hey, hospitals, providers, you guys got to have transparency out here so consumers and small businesses can choose. And this is one of the ways all we are looking for is transparency, increased competition. I don't want the government telling people or businesses what to charge or what to pay. What I want is where people can see the actual cost of things, whether basic surgeries. I get it when you're in an emergency situation. You don't go, hey, what's this going to cost? You just want to be taken care of so you stay healthy.
But didn't we do that, Tony? Don't we have that thing now where they have to tell you what the cost of all that stuff is? Didn't you guys do that?
So there's some of it. There's the no surprise billing.
That's it. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, when you walk in, they can't hit you with saying, oh, here's a surprise cost. But what that didn't do is put out where, say, all of your hospitals, let's just say, use an example, they do a knee replacement. Standard knee replacement, no complications. This is what it's going to cost. This is the average. And we've done 10,000 of them. These are what the average costs are. Then you can compare those average costs. It's kind of like, somebody, if you're going to have, your house painted, do you want the painter that's painted 1,000 houses or the painter that's painted one house? Well, usually the person that's painted 1,000 houses probably has a better performance track record and knows what they're doing, can get it done really quick, and you're going to be satisfied. Same thing in surgeries. If somebody's done it 10,000 times, they're going to have a better success rate, lower infection rates, and they can do it cheaper.
Tony, it's weird. It just, the only area I can think of where that doesn't apply is picking a spouse. But go on. I'm sorry.
Your wife and my wife, there's two of us. I can put them at you.
Listen, is there legislation that you're going to champion to fix this in the next session, which comes up like tomorrow? Now, I know it gets kicked off in January, but you guys are close to, once you drop off Harrison, you get back here, it's pretty close to title pulling time, isn't it?
It is. There's some stuff I've been working on. You'll appreciate this, and some of the things in the law enforcement trying to strengthen some of the penalties. We've looked at other stuff in truth and sentencing, where I'm working with our current district attorney, Don Keller, and our sheriff, Darren Weekly. But we're also looking at healthcare. I've worked with Representative Matt Soper. We were talking last week. I told him I was going to be on this road trip, so when we got back, him and I are going to sit down and talk about some of the legislation. We can look at the future of how we can tackle these issues. He's currently the ranking member on the Healthcare and Insurance Committee. Him and I sit on it together, so we've been working this issue pretty hard.
Last thing before I cut you loose to continue the drive with your great son here, I received, and it could be a technical error, but 4 identical texts back to back to back to back from someone that said he gave you the opportunity when he said it's tradition for you to say, I outrank him, and you didn't go there. I don't know if you know who that came from, but I'm pretty sure that's a reminder that Dr. Julia, your wife, outranks you. She is a full bird colonel. I guess this is just going to haunt you everywhere you go, man. I mean, the last time we did this was at the Western Conservative Summit. It's your calling card, and you should just begin with, I'm Representative Tony Hartsook from House District 44. My wife outranks me. I'm available for questions, something like that.
Maybe I will. Maybe I should put that on my website. That would be, that'd be pretty funny. Now, there's a lot of women that would like this. He's got a sense of humor. My wife loves that. So,
well, there you go, Dr. Julia. There you go, Colonel. Hey, Tony Hartsook, House District 44. That's Reggie Jackson's number, Mr. October. Thank you for taking time out of that great drive with your son to get this thing done for us on air and make us smarter about this. And good luck to Harrison out there. I know he's going to do great things.
Thanks, George. We appreciate it. And he's nodding his head over here listening to you. And we really thank you for having us on the show while we're driving down the highway here.
Listen, at some point in the future, I'm going to say, and your son outranks you too. I mean, at some point, I don't know when that is, probably 20 years, but at some point we'll say your wife and your son outrank you. But, you know, that's the American dream.
It is. He's got big goals. Before I decided to retire, you know, I was interested in tracking to go on and pin on some stars. And I think, he's talked about doing that as a career. So we'll see. He might outrank both of us.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome, man. Tony Hartsook and his son Harrison off to Citadel. Thanks, man. I'll see you back here in town.
All right. Thanks, George. Take care. Have a great day.
You too. Representative Tony Hartsook from House District 44. Great fella. He's my rep. Does a great job out there. Listen, I got to say, there's some other things I want to talk about too, but if you have the Colorado option or you have considered it and you haven't done it, you're thinking about healthcare, what's the state of things out there? Like, I don't have it. I'm a TRICARE guy because I'm still in the Guard. I still get TRICARE. So all of this conversation and stuff, this is just waiting for me out there. Like when I retire, and I'll be forced to retire in less than 2 years, then I'm going to have to start thinking about these things. What's it like out there? 303-696-1971. Do you have the Colorado option? Does it work? Otherwise, we'll talk about some other cool stuff going on, some crazy things going on in criminal justice. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back here, 710 KNUS. My thanks to Tony Hartsook. He's the representative from House District 44 on the road with his son, Harrison. Great kid, Valor kid. And I think on that great, was it the football team that almost won state? But then those bastards at Cherry Creek, they're just so good. Nonetheless, on his way to the Citadel. So we've got another patriot, folks, and some parents that have put together a kid that wants to go out and serve his country at a time where he can do anything else he wants to do. So my hat's off to Tony and Julia outranks Tony. I feel like I'm obligated to say that every time I bring up Tony. Now, in the meantime, while we're off air, amongst a bunch of other things that are going on, I just want you to picture this. I get up, I go, I get coffee. Billy and I talk the whole time. I start shoving peanut butter in my mouth because I have no other breakfast options. I have a banana, an orange, and some peanut butter in a plastic spoon, okay? And in the meantime, we're just simply solving the healthcare issues here off air. But I'm interested in your thoughts on this because Billy and I had an agreement early in the conversation about this fact.
Yeah, what?
I think that we need to decouple health insurance from employment.
Oh, yeah.
Because your point is, well, say, when you heard Representative Hartsook say, hey, we need to go to the market and people need to have the choice. You were like, what choice? What choice?
I jumped in your ear. And people have to understand that there oftentimes I annoy the hell out of George I'm talking in his ear.
Often. But there are times though where you do jump in and I'm listening to a caller and they're just soft spoken enough where I'm like, I can't hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
But usually it's super helpful. Like Billy will put words in my head like, ask the question, what's your name? We need to know that, stuff like that.
Yeah. And one of the things is when Tony was talking, and I appreciated his perspective, is he talked about, well, we need to have markets and competition. And my question is, where's the competition? Because as an individual insurance person getting insurance, I have zero choice. There's no competition. My employer dictates where and how I get my insurance, who I get it from. And many times they even dictate what my premiums are going to be based on the policies they have chosen. I get zero say. I can choose policy A, policy B, and sometimes policy C.
My friend, that is the definition of choice.
Not necessarily. Not when we're talking about market competition. Not when we have dozens of healthcare and providers, and I get a choice of one provider and 3 plans. That's not choice.
I totally agree.
And that's
totally
it.
agree.
So I think that the first thing, and the thing that makes me the most frustrated is I hear politicians on both sides of the aisle talk about needing competition in the market. Not a single one of them ever suggests that we decouple insurance from employment. It wasn't always this way. The insurance was eventually coupled into employment because it was supposed to be a perk that was going to be offered in order to draw people into being an employee. Now, I believe it is a detriment because I have zero choice in that. If you want us to have market pressures enforcing these prices down, then you need to give the individual the ability to purchase at market prices, purchase the insurance. But neither the insurance companies nor the employer will ever allow that to happen. Ever.
There's one part of that I probably agree with, one part I don't. And so I want to decouple employment from insurance for that very reason. And that is, then there's no competition. And I remember when I was the DA for 8 years, every single year we'd go back to negotiate. And when I say negotiate, I'm using air quotes here, negotiate with our carrier. And there'd be like one great year where they'd be like, we're not increasing rates at all. And then the next year they'd be like, we're increasing them by 37%. I'm like, whoa, hang on, dude. And then we'd go back into the market and we'd look for someone else. And we ended up changing insurance carriers 2 or 3 times when I was DA. Incredibly disruptive because you develop a relationship with the doctor and all that. And pretty soon you find out, oh, Dr. X isn't this carrier's doctor. So I can't go to that provider. Incredibly disruptive. I don't like the idea too that individuals can't go up, like with auto insurance. We don't couple auto insurance to the employment. So you have legitimate competition that's out there.
Yeah, what you do. And one of the problems I've got is that when Tony was talking about was hospitals. He's like, hey, we're going to get billing transparency to hospitals. Great. But I don't get to always choose my hospital.
Yeah, that's true.
If my insurance doesn't allow me to go to that hospital, they may have the best prices. It doesn't matter if my insurance doesn't cover this particular procedure. I'm going to be paying more at the bottom. So the transparency inside of hospital bills, that means zero to me. Zero.
It should mean something, because then you get to question and you get to say things like, well, then I don't want to have that procedure. Then I don't want my life saved. It's too expensive.
Unfortunately, I have an ace in my back pocket, and that is my lovely and talented wife, who was an insurance adjuster for years. She can read those hospital bills.
On health or the auto?
Both. So she can read those bills. So she knows. And she has laid the smackdown. We have had a number of medical bills that have been drastically lowered because she's like, listen, you're double billing here. You're doing this. This code is wrong. You're coding this wrong. That's not what we did. This is a code for something else. No. And thousands of dollars have rolled off.
And by the way,
but that's special knowledge she has.
It's almost like the practitioners of the dark arts. There's only a handful of people relative to the population that know what coding is.
Exactly.
That know what is it? ICD 9 or 10 or whatever those codes that they use are. In fact, most of the people that pass themselves off as billers for medical providers know about 4 or 5 codes, and they use them for everything, even though there's a book and I'm showing like 2 inches thick of huge, just nothing but codes for every single procedure and office visit you can imagine. And most doctors are probably engaging in some kind of fraud, not with the purpose of defrauding, just out of incompetence in billing the same 5 codes. So there's truth to that. It's way too complicated. But what Tony revealed to us in this column and on the call was, when the government tries to compete with the private sector, it does so unfairly. And so here it mandates that these insurance companies provide this specific set of benefits instead of what people want, and then tells them, you have to reduce the cost of these things by 5% every year. And all of a sudden, insurance companies leave Colorado. Others are like, nobody's buying your damn product because nobody wants it. And now the department or the Division of Insurance is saying, well, okay, hospitals, if you're not going to help with us, then we're going to affect rate setting. And the government just has a whole set of tools that the private sector doesn't have. So I want to get government out of this. And that's where you and I divert. So we got to the point of, I agree, I don't want employment to dictate insurance. It ought to be like any other product that you get. But it felt like you were steering towards government can provide an answer. And I'm like, my God, let's run away from government providing an answer, because I said, point to the thing that government does well. You had said, hey, military. And I said, well, you're right in this way. We make war pretty damn well. We're the best at it on the planet. But the management of the folks that go to war and do that, we're not good at that at all. We're awful at that.
I agree. And I don't think the government is necessarily efficient. And the idea of a single payer worries me. However, the only counter argument I would put on the table is one of the most popular government programs are Medicare and Medicaid. And that is government health care.
And Joan just texted in, you are talking to a Medicare audience. We get choice of supplement coverage.
Yep, exactly. And that is a problem for me as well, is I do think that more choices would be beneficial. And I would love to see the one that is, and again, I'm not convinced on it, the one that has me the most intrigued is the German model. And the German model, they have a series of private insurers, and they have to meet specific requirements. And what you have is, it's a law that once you enter Germany and become a resident, you're going to be there for X number of months, you are mandated to buy insurance. If you do not purchase health insurance, they are going to fine you because of the expected cost that you're going to have inside the system. Then you go out and you purchase one of the number of plans that are out there. And then there are some subsidies and some other costs that the government reimburses you for and some other things later on down the road. But that to me seems very efficient. Again, I'm not sold on it. I don't know enough about it.
But the government mandates that you get health insurance.
Yes, they mandate that you have health insurance, and there are penalties to you if you don't. And then there are some pluses and minuses afterwards. Well, the thing is, this is the issues for me, is I think that mandating health insurance is a great idea, because I'm not of a mind that if you don't have health insurance, you should be turned away from the hospital. I believe that you do, like we do now. We talk about the idea that we don't like single payer health systems. We already have it. It exists because anybody that is not insured walks into a hospital, and that hospital has to treat them. That hospital treats them. How do they recoup their money? You and I pay it. just like we would if we were paying taxes to have a single payer health system, except we are paying for it in the most inefficient way possible when there is an emergency. So we are paying the highest possible cost at the worst possible time that is going to amount to the largest possible bill. Look, that is a stupid way to do it. So we have universal coverage. There may be a
better way to do
arguing
the emergency medicine.
I know, but arguing that we shouldn't have it, universal coverage is a non-starter because we have it.
It's not a non-starter.
No, everybody in this country already can get at on-demand health care. Can happen. And that's the issue. Saying that we don't want to do it, we need to get away from it. We need to find the system to stay away from that.
The idea that the government can say, here's a product we think that's better for you and better for the planet or whatever. And we're now like, what's that other thing, Billy, where the government says you must have this simply by virtue of the fact that you exist?
I would say, again, the argument that you had earlier, the auto insurance.
Except that's not true. If you don't own a car and you don't drive, you don't have to have auto insurance. You could walk, you could take the bus, you could ride a bike. My guess is there are millions of New Yorkers who don't have auto insurance.
But then again, that is something that if you want to engage in the behavior, et cetera, that is something that the government mandates. You have to have this insurance. So the question I have then is, if you don't want the government saying that you have to have insurance, what is the solution? Is the solution then, if you don't have insurance, when you show up at the doctor's office or at the hospital, you get pushed onto the road? And you're just like, nope, we can't help.
It's pushed onto the road.
What do you do? How do you solve? If someone does not have insurance, someone is 22, makes a poor decision, as you know, we know 22-year-olds want to do.
Sure.
And let's say they are hiking in the Colorado mountains, don't have insurance, take a tumble down the hill, break 2 legs, an arm, and have to have massive surgery and a punctured lung. And what do we want to do? Do we just sit there and go, well, can I see your insurance card before rescuing them? I don't have insurance. Well, good luck. Here's a bottle of water, and leave them there?
No, I don't think that's true
then
either.
What do you do with them? No, what's the solution? Give me a solution.
I'm trying to tell you. What I think is, you don't give them the same quality care as someone who is paying for the care. You give them life-sustaining care for sure, but you don't treat them like you treat everybody else who's out there.
No surgery.
No, if they need surgery, then yes, if they need surgery. But my guess is we can come up with some sort of a pool of money that's available for the destitute or those who don't have insurance. But when they have an emergency, but this idea that we've allowed emergency rooms to become the place where people go when they have the common cough, nope.
Yeah, but that's what we do.
I know, but I wouldn't do that.
I know, but that's when I'm saying that people say we can't have a single payer system. We have it.
But the problem
it exists in this country. But hang on a sec. Okay, so you talked about having a different quality of care. That individual that fell down the mountain needs surgery. What type of surgery? You said different quality. Explain that to me.
If it's life-saving stuff, I think they get it. But
it's not life-saving. He will survive. He can lay there, but he'll have broken legs, a punctured lung, and a broken arm. That's not life-saving.
But we'd also bill that kid for whatever. We'd take some portion of whatever it is he earns in the future. The government shouldn't be on the hook. You and I shouldn't be on the hook for everything that kid endures simply because he made a risky decision. That's another thing, is that we don't want to ever be responsible for our conduct. And that is in this health insurance thing too. So for instance, if somebody wants to make the decision to go out there and eat 3 Big Macs at every meal and stay on the couch and pile on the pounds and increase their health risk, why are you and I on the hook for the bad decisions they make?
Because of how insurance pooling works.
No, I'm telling you, we should disconnect that piece from it then, and we should go with something else. Insurers ought to be able to look at someone and say, your lifestyle is so jacked up, we're going to charge you more for insurance because you're going to cost us more. That makes sense. That's what we do. You get a DUI, insurance companies say, we're either going to charge you more, which is not going to cover you, man, because you're that bad. Why don't we do that with health decisions?
Well, we do it. We do it in a little bit in auto insurance, but we don't do it a lot in auto insurance as well. They don't necessarily, they'll raise your rates, but a lot of people's rates go up each and every year. And that's because of the shared risk inside the pool. And that is the argument inside of insurance, that it is a shared risk pool. That the idea being that when we pool all these people together, the cost to an individual is going to be much less than the cost it would be if you were just going out there and having the medical care based on your own choices and lifestyle.
You have to foot the bill for other people's poor decisions.
We already do.
No, I'm asking you if you should.
It depends on the situation, and depends on the situation and how.
22-year-old makes the decision, I'm going to go uninsured. When I could go out into the marketplace and buy it, I just decided I'm not going to because I'm going to live forever. Goes up, hikes, they get crushed, falls down a mountain. Now we've got to send out the National Guard with their special helicopters to go pick him up. They rescue him. It's great cost to the community and now great cost to us. But Shouldn't that guy be on the hook for his bad decisions, or should we be like, well, that's kids, 22-year-olds will be 22-year-olds?
Yep, he absolutely should be on the hook for his bad decisions, and that's why I would mandate you have to have insurance. You brought me back to my original point. Thank you. High five. We are now at the same point.
We're not at the same
place. Yes, we are. Yes.
I don't agree.
Yes, we are.
Because
then how would you deal with the kid?
It's just not the role of government. I can't think of another product anywhere where the government says, simply because you were born, you now must make this purchase. There is no other thing like that. Simply by existing in this country, you must buy this thing. There is no other product like that. And if we allow them to do it here, what's the next best thing the government can say? Well, this is for the betterment of all. This is
education.
What does that mean?
Education. You pay for education.
You only pay for education if you pay taxes. And there is a ton of people out there who ain't paying taxes.
Well, but there are a lot of people that do pay taxes, and their property taxes, their employment taxes. There are a bunch of those taxes that do get paid. So,
but not everybody has to.
But not everybody that has kids, people that can be childless, are still paying for education.
Totally. So different policy argument.
But you were asking me about where
I know, but
inside of this that you're mandated to pay for something that you may not want, use,
no,
etc.
That's not what I said.
That's part of it.
Not what I said. I said, where else are you mandated to buy something simply by virtue of existing? Not whether you use it or not. By existing.
I would still say
this would be it.
Education. If you have an apartment, if you have a condo, if you're paying property taxes, you're paying for education. Unless you're living in your car, you are paying and subsidizing the education.
But you can avoid that tax. You can avoid that tax by moving to a place either with a lower tax or not being a property owner. You could choose to be a renter. You don't have to pay any tax just by changing your behavior.
If you're a renter,
one where you'd have to do it because you got born.
If you're a renter, you're paying the property tax. The landlord is not sitting there and saying, well, it's only going to cost me this much to operate this facility. They're rolling in property taxes. If you're a renter, you're paying property taxes.
That means you're paying for all taxes because corporate taxes get dumped on us too. So we're really paying the corporate tax. That's not true either.
Yes, it is.
It's not true. You can avoid literally paying taxes on the property stuff directly if you just change the way you live and where you live. You could go to a place that doesn't have property taxes.
And you could also lower your insurance rates by changing the way you live.
But what you can't do is
that's
escape the mandate for universal mandated health care, and there is no other product like that.
But I understand
that. You owe it to us because you draw breath. That's not America.
But it's, again, education would do the same thing. I understand that we can avoid it. I understand the idea of you can avoid it, and you might be able to based on how things could be subsidized.
Absolutely could avoid it.
But hang on. The employer could turn around and say, I'm going to subsidize the amount you have to pay for whatever medical care you choose. You can go out there and say, the employer could subsidize it a little bit. It's the same thing. We can avoid not paying property taxes by having certain, tax tricks, etc. But that is a thing where the government mandates that you do pay. You live in that community, you are paying for it. You don't have a choice. And that's the issue that I've got.
Property owner.
Now, if you're a renter as well, and that's true.
But you can't simply say because somebody else up the food chain financially from you is paying this tax, therefore it is you paying this tax, because then you and I pay for every tax all the time.
Good. Yes. That's exactly what happens.
That's not accurate either.
Yes, that is.
We change our behavior to avoid tax consequences. It's why people go to Wyoming
but it doesn't mean
Texas.
It doesn't mean you're not paying for it.
They don't want to have income tax or they don't want to have sales tax.
That's true, but it doesn't mean you're not paying for it still. Yeah, but you can move, and you could move to different states that might have different rules. Yeah, and you can move to different companies. If one company had a subsidy and another company didn't. But I see nothing wrong with the government mandating that you have to choose a plan. And if you don't, then there's money. No, I see nothing wrong with it.
Where else do we do that exact thing? You can't avoid it. You can't move somewhere within the United States to avoid it.
I've given you the example based on education.
No example. Education does not apply.
Yes, it does.
Because you can avoid paying those educational taxes.
If you live in your car.
No, yes. Listen, man, that's not true either, because then you could say, well, listen, wherever you live on your car is property somewhere. And even if it's public property, the public's subsidizing that. And therefore the tax,
we can debate that policy if you want. We can debate that if you want.
I'm talking about owners, a direct,
if you live in the locale, you are paying the property taxes.
A direct order by the government that you must purchase a product. And if you don't, you will be penalized for it. That doesn't sound like America. That sounds like Europe or Russia. That doesn't sound like America.
I understand where you're going with it, but you still do need to have healthcare paid for, even when you get the job.
I get we're going to talk about how to do that.
Yeah, but it's still mandated.
It's not mandated. It's not mandated. You know how you know that? Because not 100% of Americans are covered by insurance.
But 100% of Americans are paying the cost of the health care.
That's not true. That's not true, man.
Well, we talked about it earlier. We have universal payer. You can't ignore that. We have universal payer already in this country.
We haven't even
talked about
we do not.
I know, but we do not deny medical coverage. It already exists.
I get it.
So the idea of you sitting here and saying, where else does the government mandate that you pay? We're already doing it.
Yeah, but
it exists. No, it already exists.
The hospitals
already
pass
exists.
on the cost to other people. I get that. If you're telling me the choice is between the current system and government, you must buy this or you'll be penalized, I'll take this system all day long, just because I don't want the government getting comfortable with the idea of saying, Billy, you took a breath this year, you now have to buy insurance, or we're going to take away money from you to force you into making this decision. That's not freedom. That's not liberty. That's not America. I would much rather talk about how can we fund health insurance in a way that would attract the most people to it and create consequences for those who make a decision not to get coverage. I want to find a way to create consequences for them. And there are none right now.
I'd love to hear what the caller's thinking. We're killing the clock. We got to go. We're in so much trouble right now. Oh, yeah. We're in so much trouble.
Buddy, I'm so
I've
sorry.
I've got to go move some stuff. No, it's my fault as well. That's my fault.
Good Lord. Have we been talking for like an hour? It feels like it. And I've done nothing in terms of the library stuff. Listen, we got to cut away We've got to cut away for a break. And when we come back, I may or may not be here. We may be just going right into the 8 o'clock hour. Nobody knows. Stick around. We've got a bunch of texts coming in. We'd love to have the phone call with you. 303-696-1971. How wrong is Billy? No, I'm kidding. Where do you come down on this debate, especially in light of the Colorado option shortcomings? It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. Well, it is George Brauchler back with you here on 710 KNUS. Listen, we did blow up that, good God, I think we blew up an entire break. What that means for us is I'm going to cut away here in a little bit under a minute, and we can continue this conversation. There's some other stories I want to talk about too, but lots of texts going on here. But Colin, Bex had said, hey, listen, is the Colorado marketplace the Colorado option, and how are they connected? I'm trying to look that up right now. I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to plead my ignorance because, like I said, I get the benefit of TRICARE for military service. And my God, is that wonderful. That is a great benefit. And if you've got kids in your family, grandkids that are looking at it is a huge, huge benefit and draw to the military and to continue to serve. So I haven't had to do this dance for a while, other than as the DA, others than as the employer who was out there negotiating for it. So, 303-696-1971 is our number. We can talk about this. Had a couple texters come in and they're like, wait, are you guys arguing? It's a debate, folks. It's a debate. Billy is super smart and we have a disagreement on this. And I wonder where you come down on it. What are we doing about the health insurance, the Colorado option, and some other stuff? Stick around. George Brauchler on the George Show. You're listening to 710 KNUS. It's halfway through the Thursday show. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. Get replaced at 10 by Charlie Kirk. Dennis at 11. I want to tell you that again because Dennis coming to town August the 30th, right there at the View House in Centennial. Really easy to get to. Frankly, I think it's 5-7 minute drive from where we're sitting right now in Denver. You can get it from anywhere, northeast, south, and west. And you ought to go to 710knus.com. Get some tickets to the Dennis Prager. It's the third annual Dennis Prager Hugs and Cigar Night. I think I've just unofficially changed the name, and some texters have said yes to the hugs part. And by the way, there's no chance of cancer from secondhand hugs, so don't worry about that. Just show up there. You get your first drink for free. There's a carving station, hors d'oeuvres. You get a premium cigar thrown in with your ticket. Great opportunity to sit around and meet with and discuss with Dennis Prager in a much more intimate setting than you normally get from 11 to 1. Seb Gorka from 1 to 3. And then Jimmy in for Deb Flora from 3 to 4. And then 4 to 7, it could be Randy again. I can't remember. It's not Stefan, though. He's out. But it could be Randy. And I listened to Randy yesterday. Great show. Had a chance to listen to him interview both D. Will, who's on this show from time to time, and John Eastman, with whom Randy is currently suing the Secretary of State over the open primary system. Now, listen, here's what we were doing in the last hour. We had on Representative Tony Hartsook. He's the state representative in Douglas County from House District 44, my House district. And Tony is a guy who penned a column for the Denver Post talking about, and he was really echoing some of the findings of a couple different studies, one of which was a Common Sense Institute study and a report that you can find at commonsenseinstituteco.org. commonsenseinstituteco.org. And it's one that found that the Colorado option, which was supposed to and almost mandated to create cost savings by guaranteeing a 5% reduction in rates in successive years, it's failing to do that. And it's failing to do that because people ain't buying that product. Of course, the government, the Division of Insurance, is blaming it on hospitals. It's also blaming it on insurance brokers for not pushing it more. And the insurance brokers counter with, nobody wants this. And so that engendered a conversation with Billy and I about health insurance. I think we both agreed we wanted to see it disconnected from employment, but then we took a different direction. Billy likes the idea of universal health care, a government mandated, you must get this. I don't like that at all. And I'm less inclined to want to push the state to get involved in insurance other than through regulation like fraud and coverage. Like the Division of Insurance has a legit purpose. Don't get me wrong. I do not want them in the business of telling private insurance companies what they need to do. Frankly, this was another conversation too, is the health insurance thing is just a complete catastrophe anyway. Is there some way to get rid of insurance? By get rid of, I don't want the government to come in again and say you can't exist, but to create a model where there's just much more of a direct relationship between you and your provider. I don't know what that is. I'm sure there's something out there, but it engendered this conversation that cost us, my God, we could have been doing that, buddy, for 30 minutes. I don't know how long it was. I mean, we were just jibber jabbering and the texts were going and there's a bunch of them on here. And then people started calling in and I'm like, holy crap. Like, I can't keep up with all of these. Like, here's some Medicare's de facto mandated. You pay for it in every paycheck. Yeah, but you don't get Medicare until you reach a certain age. Like, you don't get it even though you're paying for it. And you can avoid that tax by not earning money and not paying taxes. That's legit. Hi, I wanted to listen to, but it's not confirmed. Can I hear it? I don't know about that. Good morning, George. I work in the medical field and the DME part, and we have a lot of people on Medicaid. It's really frustrating when you hear them say, oh, but it's free. Yes, it's free to the person on it, but they don't realize that it's the hardworking people like you and myself and others that work every day that is paying for that. Just had to put that out there. Have a goo. And I think what you're going to say is, have a good day or a good show. I agree with that. It's funny you bring that up, Texter, because Billy and I were talking about that off air. My son Trey, who I've told you before, suffers from muscular dystrophy. Medicaid is part of his life. Like, there is simply no way we can accomplish certain things on Trey's behalf without Medicaid. That's a real thing. And I don't at all think it's free. I completely agree that taxpayers are helping to subsidize things like his electric wheelchair, which, my God, those things are freaking expensive and stuff like that. I get all that. And some of the treatments that he gets and all that. I appreciate that too. But there is some floor below which we can't let people fall simply because of genetics or a birth defect or some luck or something like that health-wise. So I agree, it can't just be all marketplace driven. There's got to be that. I just refuse to believe that it's got to be government providing the mandated answer for everybody, whether you're healthy or not, whether it's by choice or by providence. I don't know the answer. But anyway, we've got callers on the line. I want to have the conversation with them. We're going to go to line one. Rebecca from Arvada, you're on 710. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Living the dream. What do you think about all this?
Well, I'm on the marketplace plan, and it's definitely taxpayer funded, no doubt, because I'm self-employed, and if I don't, and it's based on a subsidy from the government. So when I get my insurance bill, here's how much I'm going to owe next year if I make more money than what I had said I was going to make, because you have to guess, right? Like, I'm going to make X number of dollars this year, and then your plan is based on what that is. So, like, my plan is $600 a month for me individually, and I think the taxpayers fund a fair portion of that, so I don't pay that much.
Is yours?
I'm working, but
you like this? What were you doing before, Rebecca? Before
I had an employer, so with the employer, I had to buy their. I would love to use a cuss word plan, but I got to choose my plan. So there are like 12 different providers, and they all have 5 or 6 different options, and they're all different prices, and they all work differently, and they have different deductibles and different plan maximums and different whatever the thing is when you pay, and then you don't have to pay any more stuff. Not being an insurance expert, obviously, and I thought it was great. But obviously, it is at taxpayer expense. Now, I'm a taxpayer too, so there were years I paid lots of taxes. So maybe this is my comeuppance or whatever, or getting it back or whatever. I don't know what you call it, but yeah, I think the plan works fine. I can't say that it's making money because I'm looking at it from the consumer side, but
I get that side. But because you asked the question in the text that you sent in, I went to the DOI.colorado.gov website, and it's actually it takes you to this DORA Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Yep.
And here's what they say. It's under the caption, saving people money. The Colorado option is available to all Coloradans who buy their health insurance on the individual market, i.e., not from an employer, and small employers with less than 100 employees. Health insurance plans are required to lower premiums on Colorado option plans by 15% by 2025. That's 5% each year. The commissioner will enforce premium reductions through the division's rate review and a new public hearing process. And then it gives you some other things you can click. And I think that's where it fails, Rebecca, is that it is not producing those savings because they can't sell enough of the products like that you have purchased. They can't seem to do it.
Well, so I don't understand that because, like, I'm with Cigna. So unless the Colorado option is a specific plan that comes from some specific insurer, I don't know how they can say that because there are like 8 different companies that provide it. And so
yes, but that option, remember what Representative Hartsook said, and that was, it is a specific, I'm going to use the term basket, but a specific basket of benefits. And so, yes, you're getting 6 different companies now, maybe on the road to less, just because some insurers are leaving the state, that are providing a fixed number of benefits that are mandated by the state to be provided at a mandated amount. And I think that's where the struggle comes in, is not enough people are in your position and making the decisions that you're making. It works for you. And I'm not saying that there aren't a ton of other people out there who it's working for, but it doesn't feel like it's producing the savings for the state the way they had thought.
Oh, I can't imagine it's producing savings because, again, it's taxpayer funded, obviously, because I'm not paying what the full rate should be. And it's very clearly put out in the, little thing that you fill out and do. So what I don't understand is just this basket of benefits. Like, the benefits are so varied and diverse when you go look at the different plans. I maybe there's a floor that they're talking about, and that floor, those benefits, maybe it's just really confusing. I mean, who isn't confused by health insurance as it is already, right? And so as a result,
I don't understand it all. It's super complicated. But let me ask you, Rebecca, as you were navigating the choices that you had, did the choices include a plan that was different than the one that you had? Do you see what I'm saying? That offered different benefits?
Oh yeah, no, they're all different. Like, you have different deductibles, they have different plan maximums, they have different coverages. mean, I had to pick specific.
Like in terms of benefits, though, cost I get, and whether you wanted to go low risk or high risk.
Yeah, that's based on the benefits. But like I said, maybe there's a floor. Like would it
I think
cover,
there must be. I think there must be.
That must be what they're talking about. Because for me, as you know, I'm not a single topic caller, but being transgender, I have some specific needs that are different, and so I had to make sure the plan met those particular requirements. Like will they give estrogen patches or help cover that for someone who's female?
Yeah. Here's what the same website says at a later part. As part of the Colorado option, the division has designed a standardized plan, which allows consumers and businesses to easily compare plans and choose the plan that is right for them. These plans cover all essential health benefits required by the Affordable Care Act, provides free $0 primary care. I hate it when they say that because one of the texters pointed out, it ain't free. It's just costless to you. And mental health visits, and is designed to reduce racial health disparities and improve health quality. And then they have some more stuff below this right here. I'm glad you called, Rebecca, because I think it helps to give a different perspective as someone who's a consumer of the Colorado option. I don't know that it addresses Representative Hartsook's concerns about the failures to produce the savings. Can I ask you, though, the question that Billy and I were gently discussing in the last hour, and that is,
that was very simple.
Say that part again?
It was a very gentle discussion. Yes, it was definitely a debate.
Well, let me ask you, since you're on here, was it too much? Because we got some texts that are like, hey, great debate, great discussion. Others are like, I can't listen to you bicker. And I'm like, what?
I like the George and Billy show sometimes. It's great. It's funny. And I love that Billy defends a lot of stuff that you are at odds about, because otherwise, if you don't have intelligent callers, and I'm not saying that, I'm intelligent, but I can tell you there are callers that I would rather listen to Billy and you debate than the callers.
I appreciate that too. But let me ask you, in terms of that discussion, as we think about what in the heck should we be doing to make health insurance make more sense for more people? And I mean, to get them covered.
So,
what do you think? Where do you come down on that?
As I texted you, I have a special needs son as well who has type 1 diabetes, so that's a genetic thing.
Yeah.
So there needs to be that floor, just like you said, for your son, right? Because he has a lot more needs than my son.
Yeah, it's not Sparta, right? We don't just drag them out to a rock and say good luck.
Right, yeah. Or like Billy said, oh, you broke your leg, here's a bottle of water.
Yeah, unless you're thirsty.
Well, that would be good, of course, but it would be nice to be evacuated if you had 2 broken legs, a broken arm, and a punctured lung. So I think that there needs to be that floor, right? But again, the whole idea behind insurance is that pool, and I mean, honestly, I think we have to look at. I feel like the government subsidy is working as a subsidy. I feel like this. I agree that the employer thing is not a great idea because, again, you have to buy their plan, and I agree with Billy on that. But I also hear from my friends who are in the military who hate the VA. Right, and you have to have VA insurance, right? Well,
I don't have VA yet. I'm headed there because, as it turns out, I'm about to hit, I can't believe I'm saying this, 30 years of uniformed commissioned service. But right now I get the benefit of TRICARE, and TRICARE is awesome.
Okay, so I hear the VA is horrible, so congratulations.
Well, it's coming for me. Less than 2 years, I'll be in VA world or something like that, because I think I lose my ability to get this TRICARE product, which, man, I want to keep serving for a lot of different reasons that are completely unrelated to that. But I can't tell you that isn't a sweet benefit that comes from serving your country. That's a good one. Rebecca.
And there's your benefits. And again, just like you were saying, and I'll just end with this. First of all, have a really good day.
But thank you.
You're welcome. The thing is that just like with police and fire and schools and all of the public employees in that sense, if we turn doctors into that, the country as a whole needs to seriously look at how all of those people are compensated. Military individuals, all of those people, they're so underpaid, so underappreciated. That's what's wrong with our system. And I'd be 100% for healthcare if everybody was paid right, just like I feel like we don't pay everybody else right. So I'll leave it at that. And it was good talking to you this morning.
Great talking to you too, Rebecca. Always a thoughtful call. And I appreciate hearing from the perspective of someone who's in that marketplace benefiting from that heavily subsidized Colorado option. It's just putting a different face on the conversation, which I really appreciate that. Here's a text. No other product is mandated based on the mere fact of existence because no other expense is necessitated by the mere fact of existence. That's not true. Food, clothing, housing. I mean, those are all things that are necessitated by the mere fact of existence. But that doesn't make them a right. And we certainly don't mandate that you go out and buy these things or have them at a certain level. Thus, the homeless people. I'm sorry, the unhoused, the people that choose to be out there. By the way, Rebecca's line is open at 303-696-1971. Going to get right back to the phones that Billy's answering right now. So I'll tell you about this. Gay Ribble, speaking of housing, if you're interested in upgrading your home or maybe even downsizing your home because of changes in your life, whether it's the kids have moved on, you're getting them out of the house, or you're moving to be closer to grandkids, so you just want a smaller place that they can get to, you've got to move because of the job. It doesn't matter. The place you go to is Gay Ribble with Empower Home team of Keller Williams. Gay, an expert here. I'm just going to read you some of the stuff right here. According to the Wall Street Journal, Gay Ribble and Empower Home team are ranked one of the top real estate agents in the Front Range. That's according to the Wall Street Journal, not the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. They'll guarantee the sale of your home. That's crazy, right? Like, who guarantees that they're going to sell the home? But wait. If your home doesn't sell in the time and for the price that you agree upon with Gay, they have a guaranteed program. They'll buy your home at a price acceptable to you, guaranteed, and they'll do it in writing. Other realtors just don't do that because they don't have the confidence that comes from decades in this marketplace. They have 14,600 buyers in waiting for you to list your home with Gay. Now, you can go to the website, gayhasthebuyers.com, Gaye hasthebuyers.com, gayhasthebuyers.com. My recommendation is call them on this very specific line because you get them, local people, answering your questions right now. 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. Who doesn't want to have more money in their pocket than with other realtors, sell their home for faster, and have a better shot at getting into the dream home that you want to get into? If that's you, and only if that's you, call Gay Ribble. If your thought is, I really don't care, it's just, I just want to sell the house, I don't care with whom, then don't call Gay. Call Gay if you want the best. Listen, we're going to get right back to the phone lines here. Jennifer from Denver, you're on 710 KNUS. What do you think, Jennifer?
Hey, George. I'm listening to everybody condemn employee-offered insurance, and I just want to offer a different perspective.
Well, good luck.
It's a benefit. It's a benefit that can be negotiated, in my opinion. And whether you go to a job, at my age, I look at the insurance coverage.
Well, tell me how you negotiated it with your last employer or your current employer. How did you negotiate?
It's not that I negotiated it. You know, sometimes they'll have options. I've worked for the state of Colorado. I've worked for private companies. I've worked for companies that weren't able to offer as much. But in the overall picture, when I'm evaluating whether I take a job or not, especially now at my age, I consider how good is the insurance.
Well, that's
part of a package.
That's a real thing to consider. And you're right, it's a benefit. But the limitation is in that part where you said, I negotiate with them. If you went to an employer that says, hey, we're Anthem or we're Cigna or whatever, and you said, I'll come work for you, but you have to go with, Kaiser, which, my God, right. I don't know why you'd say that. They wouldn't be like, we really like you, Jennifer. We're going to go with Kaiser. They're going to say, that's not an option. That's not possible. You can have our health insurance or you cannot. And if you said, hey, I want a different health insurance premium or program, they'd say, that's not how it works. We have health insurance and we'll give it to you for this cost, but we can't monkey around just for an individual. Don't you think they would tell you that?
I agree. And so that takes out the free market element of it. And unfortunately, we've gotten into this system that the free market cannot prevail. I think if we were to make adjustments, they'd have to be really slow. Otherwise, they impact people in a huge way. I do think there should be some kind of safety net program.
What does that mean? What's a safety net program?
Oh, some kind of minimum care, because you can't deny the fact that we're paying anyway when people go, like you said, to the emergency room for a cough.
But do you accomplish that, Jen, through the Billy communist government mandate? I'm kidding. The Billy option of making the government or having the government make you buy something, because that is what they're going for, right? Is that the answer?
I'm unsure. I think that when you think about, excuse me, my dog is freaking out right now. when you think about government, what is the role of government?
Yeah, what is the role of government, Jen?
Right.
What is
I don't
the role?
like well, public safety, law enforcement, protecting people's rights.
Okay.
If healthcare is a necessary thing, and we're already, like I said, paying for it when people go to the emergency room, shouldn't there be sort of a baseline option, much like we have a welfare system? Shouldn't there be just that safety net, especially when people maybe lose a job and then they lose their health care? Shouldn't there be something to
Well, we have
tide them
Cobra.
over?
We have Cobra available for when you lose a job. And the word you used there was option. And I agree, option. But what I'm hearing from folks that are like, hey, there needs to be universal coverage because we already sort of de facto have it, is you don't have an option. Your option is to buy health insurance or we penalize you financially. I mean, that's not really an option. That's like, I have an option to not rob my neighbor, but if I do rob him, I might go to prison. I mean, that's not an option, right? You're being told you must do this. You must conform to this. That's the part I have a problem with. I want to create options and choices, but those choices have to come with consequences. And so if people eat themselves into morbid obesity, I don't want to be on the hook for all of their poor healthcare decisions. I don't want to be insensitive to it, but I don't want to have to wait in line to see my doctor because they already have the same insurance I have because we've gone universal, one size fits all, which is the only way you could really do this.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I'm not for universal health care. It sounds insensitive and inhumane, but you're right. If you don't purchase a product, then you shouldn't be able to enjoy the benefits of it. And we're talking healthcare, right? We're talking about life or death. So of course that is going to evoke so many other issues surrounding it. But from a basic marketplace principle, if you don't buy it, then you don't get it.
That's right.
Car insurance. How many uninsured uninsured drivers?
A ton.
And yet car insurance is mandated.
For those who drive, that's true. But the other thing that the insurance companies have done to answer, hey, we know the state sucks at making sure that people that drive on the roads have insurance, is they give you something called an uninsured, underinsured option for your insurance.
Right.
A lot of people foolishly choose the minimum, which I think the state says $25,000. And I don't want to see the state monkey around with that. You're a fool to do that because of exactly what you said, Jen. There's a billion people on the road driving around without any insurance. And when they crush you, and whether they stay at the scene or drive away and hit and runs, this is true for a lot of them, the only place you can go to turn will be that uninsured, underinsured coverage. That will never be enough. So if you're out there listening, call your insurance company today and say, how much more do I have to pay a month to get me 6 figures into that area? Because paper cut's going to put you at $25,000, let alone something broken or long-term.
So with your plan, or what you think should happen, don't you agree it would have to be done in such an incremental way that you don't have the impacts? What I didn't like about Obamacare was it just came in and made sweeping changes. There was no time to adjust. It didn't work like many predicted. We've got this marketplace right now in Colorado, which the Colorado option is part of. I've heard of people paying extraordinary amounts just to say they have health insurance. All it is catastrophic.
That's true. Catastrophic coverage exists out there, and maybe that is an option. People can have the catastrophic coverage, so when they go climb up the mountain and fall down a ravine and they get rescued, they have the ability to get some kind of coverage. I don't know how incremental it has to be, but Jen, when you talk about the Obama thing, remember the Republicans were one McCain away from overturning or getting rid of Obamacare, right, and they had no damn option. You know what I mean? They had no alternative. It was like, haha, we were going to kill Obamacare, and then look at each other and go, caught the car. Now what? You know what I mean? It was, there was no good option that anything happened. Billy's giving me the let's break. Jen, thanks for the great phone call. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
Hey, Jen's line is open, 303-696-1971. Here's a text. What's wrong with Kaiser Healthcare? I have a friend who's on Kaiser, and she said she likes it. As an impoverished senior, I'm considering buying it, but if something is wrong with it, let us know. I don't think there's anything wrong with Kaiser, and I know people who are huge fans of Kaiser. I'm just not one of them. Your choices are severely limited, and it's their particular model. Like, you don't necessarily get to show up and see the same doctor 2 times in a row. They'll provide you with coverage. It's just in a different, very forced, very organized model But again, I'm not a Kaiser person. So if you're out there and you want to square me away on that, you can at 303-696-1971. Cutting away for an overdue break. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy. Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Great conversation we've been having on and off the phones, especially on the texts here. Here's one. Yo, George, Jesus was born in a barn because Mary and Joseph had Kaiser insurance. So, okay. Another text. I've known several people who've had horrible experience with Kaiser, life and death type awful experience. That's really concerning in the healthcare is that they're wanting to get rid of some of these tests that these doctors have to take to get into good schools. That's very concerning. Now, listen, again, I'm not speaking from personal experience. I'm speaking from a shared anecdote with folks where people have told me this. But Kaiser, much like I view, it's a bureaucracy, but I feel like much like the government would be, if they were in charge of all this, they would do a cost-benefit analysis of whether you need the care and say no. You know, that's my sense of it. Now, I know there are insurance companies out there. I watched and read, by the way, The Rainmaker, great book by John Grisham, a Matt Damon classic with Danny DeVito. And I know that insurance companies aren't out there to make people happy or healthy. They're out there to make money, and they do it hand over fist. I think it's a racket. The health insurance thing is a complete racket. But the only way to try to bring them, in my opinion, under control is to subject them to competition. And they just don't have it right now. And I don't think injecting government or a government mandated option at a government mandated cost or reduction in cost is the right way to do it either. I don't think that's the kind of competition I'm talking about. We got to figure out a way to make this consumable item more like every other consumable item that's out there. I mean, maybe Costco will offer insurance, and maybe Sam's Club.
They're selling caskets.
Are they selling?
Yes,
caskets?
Costco sells caskets.
Well, it's the end of the health insurance road when
exactly.
you do the casket.
Like, yeah.
But I would rather see us be able to get health insurance from a myriad. Maybe Amazon will provide health insurance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you put Amazon, if you put Jeff Bezos in charge of this, or the Google people or something, they would definitely violate your right to privacy. There's no question about that. They would have all your information and that's it. But there's no doubt in my mind too, they would offer a competitive product at a much cheaper price.
Yeah.
And
I would agree with you on that.
That would freak out insurance companies. If somehow Amazon started providing health insurance, they'd freak out. But we got to do those things like allow them to cross over state lines to provide health insurance and to have a more uniform set. Maybe it's through a compact. I hate it when the government mandates anything, but some sort of a compact where they can do that.
Yeah, I like this conversation because you and I are starting at basically the same place, but where we
how
see
we
the
get
finish
there.
line, how we get there and where you see the finish line is vastly different. Like the last conversation you were having with Jennifer, you were talking about how you don't want to pay for that person that is eating 3 cheeseburgers a day and living a bad lifestyle.
Yeah, that's it. I said that.
But the issue is that you're already doing that. And
eating
so
3 cheeseburgers a day?
No, but you're paying for that person because that's how insurance risk pools work. You're already paying for that person's bad decisions. It's a shared risk pool that you bring everybody into that pool and we share the risk. So the person that is very healthy and the person that is not so healthy, you both are in that pool. You may have slightly, not a lot, slightly different premiums that you pay. And that's some of what we see right now with things like if you have insurance from the company that we have, they have incentive benefits that if you do X, Y, and Z, you can lower your care. So that already exists. You're already paying for that person with 3 cheeseburgers. Not to get the phone.
We need different pools. And what I'm saying is if you took the shackles off of insurance, I think you would see more companies going after the healthiest people and offering them, I think trying to offer them the cheapest product and hopefully offering the people who've made really poor health decisions like, oh, hi, I want to continue to chain smoke because I've never believed the Surgeon General warning, and charge them a lot more, not a little more, a lot more, and put them in a different risk pool. But I'm not wedded to the idea that the health insurance model that we have right now, we keep trying to come up with ways to incentivize health insurance to do things better. We used to have this per patient per day model 20 plus years ago. That didn't seem to work. We had the shared risk pool models. That one kind of sort of doesn't work either. Bunch of stuff here. Here's a text. I love Kaiser. They're very focused on preventative care and charge very little for it. And I do have the same doctor. Well, I like to hear that story. And I love the preventative care piece. If we spent more time on preventative care, I think too, we'd have better outcomes. Brings me to, I was telling Billy off air, Graham and I started watching the quarterback on the quarterback's Netflix yesterday. Great show. But before that, we started watching Game Changers. And I don't know if you've seen that series, Billy, but it's some dude who, through a bunch of science and interviews and all this other stuff, came to believe that a vegetable or vegetarian-based diet was the one that provided the most health benefits. And so, of course, I'm watching this while I'm eating chicken and steak in my in my Chinese meal, and I'm like, that's such a very interesting point that they make. But my point is this: there are preventative healthcare models out there. Maybe if your insurer said, hey, if you can cut back to one steak a week or something and don't smoke, we'd offer you a lower premium, or you worked out at the gym and we could monitor that, or you could, I mean, those are the kinds of incentives that I think make sense. I don't know, 303-696-1971, the number. Ben from Morrison, you're on 710. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I think just healthcare in general shouldn't be, I like a government model because I don't think it should be a for-profit industry.
Why not?
Because you don't always get to choose with a lot of the things. Like, for example, like if I get into a car wreck and an ambulance shows up, I don't get to call a second ambulance and compare rates with it and say, well, this guy's cheaper, so I'd rather use his ambulance service. And, you know, they're going to take me to whatever the closest hospital is. I don't get to pick if I want to go to this one or this one or this one.
No,
like,
that part's true, but your insurer might cover it differently depending upon whatever hospital, whatever ambulance shows up. But man, I'm fascinated with the idea that you want government making the decisions for you. I mean, the problem with taking it and putting it in government's hands is, what's the incentive to keep costs low? I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched Prime Minister's Questions. Do you ever watch that, Ben? PMQs?
No.
I'm telling you, it is worth the watch. It's 30 minutes every like Wednesday in Parliament, and the Prime Minister comes down into the well, and it's like a well, and gets bludgeoned with questions from the other side, from the opposition. And also questions asked that are much more softballish from the Conservative Party, you know, like, tell me how good looking you are, you know, those kinds of, so they do both. But at the end of the day, the conclusion every single time is this: both sides are committed to one thing, and that is spending more and more and more and more money on the national healthcare system. Nobody talks about an alternative. Nobody talks about trimming back the costs. It is, and that's what would happen here. Once we go to a government provides, the only debate you'd have is how much more, because there'd be no incentive to cut costs and provide better service.
Well, healthcare also runs a little bit differently too, because let's say, for example, if I get cancer, I'm not going to look for my cheapest option. Generally, I want the best doctor I can possibly get.
Well, shouldn't that be a product of your ability to pay for the best doctor you can get? I mean, should you be entitled to the best cancer doctor on the planet Earth just because you're Ben from Morrison? Because I can't get that.
I think people should be treated the same in that situation.
So people that have made a bunch of horrible life decisions, like chain smoking, eating poorly, never addressing their sodium intake, all those things, those people get sick. And let's say they put themselves in a position to run a higher risk of cancer and they get cancer. They should be in line in front of you for the best cancer treatment out there. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
that sucks, doesn't it?
I don't know.
I mean, yeah. Ben takes care of himself. Ben gets cancer. Ben now has to wait behind people who are just like, I'm a 3 cheeseburger a meal guy while I chain smoke and drink every night. That doesn't sound fair to me.
But you could probably develop a system for different insurance pools, you know, like you were talking about earlier with preventative care and things like that, where some people are in different pools with a government set up system, where some people might be at.
But then how do you
some
distinguish?
People might be at a higher risk.
How does Ben qualify for better care than that person? Or how do you, I mean, you would end up rationing good care. And when you, by the way, another thing, when you start cutting costs for healthcare and you start talking about, well, you know, here's the next place we have to go with doctor pay. We're already having trouble producing enough medical providers here. And that's why we've made this shift from doctors to nurse practitioners and these other folks who can prescribe, because we're saying, my God, we just don't have enough doctors out there.
Yeah, and a big part of that, I think, is a problem with our education system, where these doctors graduate and, you know, they have $300,000-$400,000 in medical or in educational debt, or, you know, they can't I mean, we go the same thing with like vets and stuff like that, where these people are graduating.
I would much rather figure out a way to subsidize in some way doctor education than I would to say, government, you can be in charge of healthcare. And Ben, I'll leave you with this because I got to cut away for a break here, but name that government program that you're like, that works better than it would if the private sector ran it.
I think Singapore has a very good system. I need to look a little bit more into it, but
I don't know. But I'm talking about our government, and maybe Singapore does have a great system. But what other government thing that our government does where you're like, damn, that's efficient and it's good?
The national park system.
Oh my goodness.
We generate more money from that than we put into it.
You think that's the model then, is the national park system?
I'm just saying it's a very efficient, effective system that the government does.
That they also ration. Like not everybody can go whenever they want to go, right? I mean, we've seen that up in just Estes Park. Rocky Mountain National. You know what I'm talking about? Where you want to all go in there. Nah, too many people. Too many people on the road. Can't go. I mean, that's rationed. Well,
and it's just too many people like trying to go up there at the same time. There's only so much parking. Like,
yeah. Hey, Ben, thanks for the phone call, man. I always appreciate the thoughtful discussion on this. The Singapore thing is a nice thing too. I don't really know. And Amanda was just in Singapore. I don't even know what health insurance she had there. I think we still got it through George Washington, but what do I know? Listen, I got to cut away for a break. When we come back, we'll continue to do the texts that keep coming in as well as the calls. Ben's line is open at 303-696-1971. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. Hey, it's Mitch Floria right here on 710 KNUS. No, kidding. It's George. But I am talking about Mitch Floria, The Art of Granite. It's 4 words you can string together to create a website that will open up your eyes to the options for upgrading your kitchen and your bathroom countertops with a guy who is a wizard at it. Mitch has been doing this for years. He cares more about the relationship and the customer service than he does about just a quick poaching of a client or taking that money. He wants the word of mouth, and he starts by doing it right here, getting you to give him a call on his number, 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919. You can check him out at theartofgranite.com. I say go out to his place of business right there at about Colfax and 6th Avenue. You go in there and meet him. I'm telling you, you're going to get stuck. You're going to shake his hand, and you're going to end up with a beautiful new countertop. Listen, we're going to come back. When we do, we're going to be joined by Kathleen Chandler from the Independence Institute, and then we're going to get right back to the texts, many of them, and the calls. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you. Final hour of the George Show on 710 KNUS this Thursday. Is it already the 10th? Oh my gosh, it's the 10th. It means my brother gets in tonight. We get to hang out together tomorrow. That's fantastic because he's 50. Something else, third anniversary of Dennis Prager. He comes on at 11 o'clock. I know you're going to stay tuned to 710 to listen to him, but why not see him in person? Why not go to 710knus.com, get a ticket, come join me and Deb and Stefan and the whole crew, except Billy, who apparently will be working elsewhere because that's just how the Thorpes do it. Come join us out there. Go to that website, get a ticket, get your premium cigar and your drink and your free health care. Oh, wait, no, that's not part of it, but you might need it afterwards because you're going to get the carving station and the hors d'oeuvres and the wonderful intimate opportunity to sit and listen to and discuss with Dennis Prager. Go check that thing out. Now, listen, I want to call up on to the air right now a VIP. She holds one of the most coveted positions, not only at the Independence Institute, but also in state GOP party politics. Her name is Kathleen Chandler. Ma'am, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. And the only reason I am in this esteemed position with the state GOP is because Mr. Brauchler refused to show up to the last meeting, and I was elected by a default because there was nobody else.
By refuse to show up, that was a consistent trend. I made probably less than 50% of the meetings. They were very challenging to make unless they were on Zoom, and most of them were. Nonetheless, we'll get to that part. We'll get to that part later. Tell me what your title is for Independence Institute, because Mark, who's running the video right now, and we like to put up there speaking with Kathleen Chan. What's your title? What do we call you?
Well, it's a weird title. It's called Future Leaders Program Manager and Coalitions Manager. So I'm the Coalitions Manager and the Future Leaders Program, which is a fancy way to say I coordinate all the interns at the Independence Institute.
And also, if you string all the first letters together, it spells out Flippum, which is exactly what you are.
Yeah.
Now you are doing something special. We have you on from time to time as you're about to launch something or tell folks about, hey, here's how you can make a bigger difference on a conservative's behalf in the running of things in your community. What do you got going on that's upcoming?
Well, one of the big thrusts we have at the Independence Institute is we recognize that the best way to change the culture is to really get people involved in their local politics. And it's very difficult to do, as you can imagine. Most people don't want to be elected. So we've come up with a really wonderful idea that there are thousands, literally thousands. We've identified over 4,000 boards and commissions at the local level that are appointed, not elected, that the average citizen can give 5 hours a month to change the course of their local government. And so I'm teaching a class on August 24th by Zoom, and go to the Independence Institute's website, sign up for that class, and I will give you the how-to, step 1, and probably step 2 on how to get appointed to these boards and commissions. And then I want to be your coach. Once you get on this board or this commission, I want to be there to help you understand the process, because we cannot take back our local government unless we get involved.
I think that's true. And you have been doing this for a while now. How do you measure success? Like the people that come and they avail themselves of your expertise on this and just the knowledge of where to go to look for these boards to join. How do you measure how successful they are? Do you keep track of, and now we're on this place and that place, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. Although I have to admit, it is extremely hard to keep track of all of this because there are over, 4,000 just in the front range of these boards and commissions. But I have these wonderful nuggets. I have one, a gentleman named Don Sheehan. He came to my class and he was appointed to the Centennial Senior Commission. Huh. Of course, they want to know what's going on with seniors, so they poll all the seniors. Well, he loved it, and he did a great job on that commission. Well, one day, his seated city council member decided not to run. He was moving, and so came to Don and said, hey, Don, you're doing such a great job on this commission. Would you run for city council?
Get out of town.
Yeah. And so Don and I got together. I kind of coached him, helped him find his kind of, his constituency. Because see, if you do a good job and you're not partisan and you're reasonable, people see you as a leader. And so they saw Don in this leadership capacity. And now Don is is up for re-election in his second term as a seated city council member in Centennial. But that's not even the success, the end of the success story.
Yeah.
It's just the beginning, because Don, last election cycle, was opposed to the lodging tax that Centennial wanted to put on the ballot. And they did. And Don went out and campaigned against it, even though the city council had put it before the voters. And that lodging tax failed.
Wow.
So here's this guy who was on the senior commission, who's now saving the citizens of Centennial perhaps millions of dollars in taxes.
That's amazing.
That is a success story.
That's amazing. We're talking with Kathleen Chandler. She is the Flubum for the Independence Institute. Tell me some of these other boards and things that you've discovered that are out there. I imagine even for you, with thousands out there, you come across ones where you're like, I didn't know we had such a thing.
Absolutely. The more I get into rural communities, the more I understand some of these, but they sound super funny to us. There's the Noxious Weed Commission in Douglas County. And you're like, noxious weeds. Well, think about it. If someone's telling you in government what you can and can't spray,
right,
what you can do and you can't do with your private property, and you have an animal, so these people are telling you what you can and can't do with your private property through a noxious weed. Who would have thunk, right?
Yeah.
And there's hysterical ones like the Prairie Dog Commission in Boulder. And we would all know that, prairie dogs are sacrosanct.
That's
and
right.
so they actually have a commission.
But they're
but
not
they have
bulletproof.
things like, they're not bulletproof. And exactly right. But there's, bike lane commissions. How do you think all these silly bike lanes are everywhere? There's commissions for anything. So here's really what happens. Your average city council member comes across a problem. They don't want to deal with it. So they get a commission. So they're creating these commissions all the time. Then they get this commission full of people that are probably nannies in that they want to just deal with you. They want to control you as a citizen. And then they recommend stuff to the city council. Then when the city council comes up with a vote, they can say, oh, it's not really our idea. It's the
commission.
The citizens.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you end up with nannies that want to control your life on these commissions. And we need to take them back. One, so that we can tell us our local government no, but the ultimate is to dissolve them so that the city council is the only elected people that we have to worry about, not the unelected.
How hard is it to do away with these? And if the answer is it's really hard, is this the manifestation? If you can't beat them, join them. Like we're just, okay, if we can't get rid of these commissions, then we're going to populate them.
Exactly. And the way you do get rid of them is to have a majority vote on the board.
Oh, that's
so if we can get a majority vote of people that eventually join and they all look at each other one day and say, you know what, we don't need to exist. We're voting ourselves out. That is how you get them.
You can
to that
vote
point.
to dissolve yourself?
You can vote to dissolve yourself. Yes.
Can the state house do that?
How we wish.
I think they're in the Constitution, but I just thought it was worth asking.
Yeah. But I doubt the Prairie Dog Commission is in the Constitution. So that is the reason why we can get rid of the Prairie Dog Commission.
Do you find that when conservatives have gone through this Independence Institute program and they hear what you have to say, that they face a tougher time getting appointed to these commissions because they're identified as conservatives? And the other question is, who appoints these people to all these boards? Who are those bodies?
Well, first of all, when you apply, do not be partisan. Like, no one wants to work with a partisan person anyway. I don't want to work with somebody who is just an obstinate no all the time. People want to work with others that have good ideas and that can bring something to the table. So just be reasonable. Like, don't list all the things you are going to do once you get on the commission to destroy everything, right?
Like, don't announce I'm on this board to end it. Like, maybe
exactly. Okay, so stealth is probably at least some part of this position. But we just the appointment process is actually through the entity that owns the commission. So it could be a library board. Okay, it could be your water commission. It could be your city council, your county commissioners. It could be the state of Colorado. I believe it or not, am a polis appointee.
What? Wait,
yeah.
What name did you use?
Well, Governor Polis needed quote, a conservative to be on the motor dealer vehicle board. So I am now on the motor dealer vehicle board.
You're
and
the
now
token. Kathleen's the token.
You bet. But I actually have a lot of power because I have the power of persuasion.
Okay.
Right?
Well, and you are persuasive. That's true.
And that's what you need on these boards. And so the point was, Governor Polis needed somebody to appoint, and he appointed me. And I'm behind the scenes actually looking at all of this. And last, a couple of months ago, we had a fee setting session. And they wanted to raise the fees for a license to become a motor dealer vehicle, a board, a licensed dealer. And I voted no.
And what happened when you voted no? Did it change things?
No, it did not. But it set the record that we don't always have to be unanimous, and we don't always have to raise taxes. And so that's the message we need to say, because it's going to take a while to change culture, right? We got this way over 40 years. It's going to continue to be that way over the next probably 10 to 20 years. And the only way we're going to be able to do it is by being there and being available and getting in the local fight.
Kathleen Chandler from the Independence Institute. Tell folks again, how can they access this great information?
They can go to our class. The webpage is thinkfreedom.org. Thinkfreedom.org. That'll get you to the main page at the Independence Institute. There's tons and tons of information there, but there's a drop down that says join us, and I'm listed at the local government project. The registration is there, and it'll allow you to get the Zoom link. It's a nominal fee. I charge $10 for the class, because if you don't charge anything, people will sign up and they never show up. So I want a little bit of buy-in. But it's a class on August 24th by Zoom. Again, we want to incorporate the entire state of Colorado, so it's all four corners. I get people from, La Plata County and Archuleta and up in, Steamboat area. And that class goes from 6:30 to 8 o'clock.
That's fantastic. And how often do you do this? Every year, every quarter, every month?
I try to do it as often as the need is out there. And it's really about every 3 months. But if you have a group of 3 or more people, I will come to you. Wow. So if you've got a church group, a backyard barbecue group, your neighborhood,
a radio station.
This is a radio station. There you go. This is an opportunity for us to tell everybody, and I'd be happy to do it in person. I just need to make it worth driving wherever I'm going to go.
Kathleen Chandler from the Independence Institute. To flip them, I don't want to leave, though, this conversation without converting you to a different kind of witness. And that is because of that role that you took over. Thank you. On the state central committee. You are the 4th congressional district person that does this now. Did you go to the big event on Saturday at the Rock?
Yes, I did.
How long did it
now
last?
I have to stop. The Independence Institute is a nonpartisan organization, 50c3, all that stuff. So I'm now putting on a different hat.
In fact, we'll do it like this. I'm bringing up right now on the VIP line, Kathleen Chandler. She is the 4th congressional district representative to the state GOP Central Committee. Kathleen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, George. It's a pleasure.
I know that this call is completely disconnected from any relationship you have with the Independence Institute. So I thought I would just ask, in your capacity, and only in your capacity as the 4th CD State Central Committee rep, describe for us Saturday in terms of you went there, what expectations did you have, how long did it last, and what did you witness?
Wow. You want me to do that in how much time?
We have an hour. No, I'm kidding.
Well, first of all, I was there at like 7:30 in the morning. And so, and it got done around 5 o'clock. So it was a very long day. Yeah. Full day. My expectation was exactly what happened. A long meeting. Actually, I was very impressed. Dave Williams, who's the chair of the Republican Party here in Colorado, did a very good job setting the mood of we will not tolerate this, we will not tolerate that. And so it was very, very civil.
I've heard that. I've heard he ran a good meeting. So
he ran a good meeting, and we had lots of things to do. We didn't just have this whole quote Bonnie Well amendment. We had to elect the new vice chairman. We had to, there was multiple bylaw changes that they had to propose. And so there was a lot of information, a lot of things that happened. And I don't know, rightly or wrongly, there's this contingent that just absolutely wants to have paper ballots. So, you know, we can have credit card transactions, we can order things by, you know, Amazon, whatever, but we can't vote unless we have a piece of paper.
That's right.
So anyway, that's really what takes the longest. Like, you could decide a bunch of things in a shorter time if you didn't have to count pieces of paper.
Right.
But anyway, that's what the committee, the commission, the whoever, I don't even know, that those that don't rely on life experiences have come up with. Technology we should embrace as Republicans, because we should be ahead of the game, not behind the game.
We
should never be reverting.
Yeah, I agree.
I know. Anyway, so that's really what happened. But we had lots of different bylaw changes that had to take place. Some of them were good. Some of them were like, I don't understand them. There was one that I actually stood up and said, I don't understand what this bylaw is even about. It's very confusing. And so I stood up and said, hey, this needs to be remanded back to the bylaw committee to, you know, clarify. So that one was actually voted down. And then the last one, of course, was the big one on the opt-out. And it wasn't really about the opt-out. That's not what the vote was. The vote was on whether or not they were going to change the bylaws to accommodate a particular vote in the future, which is on the next meeting, and what that change in the bylaws on the number of proxies, the number of votes, all of that was going to entail. And that's what I objected to. I objected to the fact that if you, this was what was proposed, if you as a citizen, a member of the Central Committee, do not attend for whatever reason, you had a car accident, you know, I had one lady who called me this last week and said, hey, I'm in Rocky Ford. My melons are coming in. I can't be at the meeting because I'm a farmer.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that just happen.
Yeah.
And she, you know, said, so by me not showing up, my vote would have been a yes. So I was actually at a breakfast for the Denver GOP, and I asked Mike Lynch.
Kathleen, can I interrupt real quick before you get to the Lynch thing?
Sure.
What do you say to those who would be like, well, man, she's got to know her melons are coming in. Why didn't she just proxy?
Because this particular meeting was a special meeting because we had to elect the new vice chairman because Priscilla Ron resigned.
That's right.
And we had all these bylaw changes that have to be in effect before the next meeting 30 days in advance. So it was a very special meeting. No one actually knew when it was going to be. And when you're planting melons, I don't think you know those things.
No, I don't. I don't know those things. I'm not a melon planter. I'm a melon eater. But you talked to Mike Lynch about this. What did he say?
Well, and he was at this meeting, and I stood up after there was a bunch of talk about why everybody needed to vote for it. And I said, Mike, if you as our representative on the minority side was not going to attend a meeting, have you ever been to a meeting where your vote, your non-attendance was a vote in the affirmative? And he said, absolutely not. I mean, to me, that is so anti everything that we believe in as people. That is what I objected. I didn't object to the opt-out. I don't object to a lot of the other things, but the procedures. So as a Republican, we are the party of law and order. And this was not the solution. So we need to be mindful that when we set out a solution, it needs to be good from the beginning, not just at the end. Right.
Kathleen, we should probably ask too, where are you on this whole open primary thing to begin with?
Well, I am absolutely against the open primary, but I am afraid the way that it is framed here in Colorado, that what we're doing as a party is probably not the solution again. We need to partner. I know this sounds terrible, but we need to partner with the Democrats, because if we don't partner with them, no matter what happens, it's a lose-lose for the Republicans and it's a win-win for the Democrats. We must partner with them. I don't think they like this any more than we do, but they have an advantage because they're in power and they can sit back and just watch. And so if we win this lawsuit, they're going to go, oh, we knew this was the wrong solution. We're so excited that they won it for us, right?
Yeah,
if we lose the lawsuit, oh, we know they hate you unaffiliated. See, this just proves that they're just nasty people.
I
So
think if
it's a
they win,
win-win
they'll
for
say
them
that.
and a lose-lose for us.
I agree with you, but I think even if Randy wins, right? Even if the party wins, I think they go to the unaffiliates and go, oh, darn it, we didn't want this outcome. They forced you out of our primary. We're going to try to fix this. You know what I mean? Like, I see them going down that road because they see it as an advantage, and they're right.
Yeah, exactly. So what we need to do is to partner with the Democrats and say it's unfair to everyone. It's unfair to the Democrats. It's unfair to the Republicans. And we need freedom of association because I believe they don't like it any more than we do. But we have not broached a deal. And that's part of what I don't understand with the Republicans. We will win with the battle of ideas. We don't need to win with the baton, like beating people. This is not what we should be doing. We need to incorporate them into this fight because it's the right fight to have, but it needs to be done with their help because we're going to look bad no matter what happens.
Kathleen Chandler, she is the 4th Congressional District. That's Ken's district, Ken Buck's district, representative to the State Central Committee. Thank you for taking time out of your morning to have a conversation with us about the events of Saturday.
All right. And thank you for looking at the Independence Institute's website, thinkfreedom.org, and look for the class on August 24th to talk about local government.
Thanks so much, Kathleen. We'll talk with you soon. Thanks for taking one for the team and filling in that position for me. Dang, she does a nice job. Hey, listen, we're going to cut away for a break, but not until I tell you about that pain that you're feeling in your lower back or your shoulders, your neck, your knees. You could go to a billion different people who are going to promise you pain relief. Invariably, it's either some sort of a risky procedure that you've never heard before. It involves probably sacrificing a chicken to some god you've never heard of, or it involves you being cut open, being exposed to infection, and then having a long downtime followed by a bunch of rehabilitation. Why not consider an alternative that does none of those things? No animals have to be sacrificed. No one has to be cut open. In fact, QC Kinetics through regenerative medicine, and their technique, it's border to border, coast to coast. They're all over the country doing this with great success. They use you to fix you. It's an injection. You can't do better than that, right? I mean, short of them going Star Trek with the little recorder thing, short of them advancing to that, this is it. This is as modern medicine as you can get. Why not avail yourselves of it? Now, you can go to their website. And honestly, that's where you should start. Start the research there. QC Kinetics begins with a K, ends with an X, QCkinetics.com. But pick up the phone and call their local medical folks at 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986. Ask all the questions in the world and arm yourself with the ability to make a choice that's best for you. When we come back, we'll get to the calls. We'll get to some of the other stuff. There is one thing before we get to the end of the show that I do want to talk about, but we can save that until after we get through our calls. We love the callers. Have just one line open at 303-696-1971. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. My great thanks to Kathleen Chandler. Me love some Kathleen. She does such a great job for the conservative cause, both in her separate, very, very separate, unrelated capacities as the Independence Institute film and her role as the 4th CD representative to the State Central Committee. We're going to have Kathleen on every time she has the chance to try to pitch one of these things that help us get more involved in governing ourselves. I love to have her on for that. Now, listen, we had been talking about the health insurance thing. I thought, well, of course, people are all talked out on health insurance, and the topic that we started with Anthony Hartsook, who's our representative from Douglas County, that turns out to not be true. And when we have callers, and I've told you this before, this is what separates us from the other offerings out there on your AM dial. We love calls. We encourage calls. We love the interaction with texts. I read as many as I can, and we want to honor the caller. So we're going to go right back to the phone lines. Bob from Denver, you were extremely patient to wait on through Kathleen's interview. Sir, what do you think about the health insurance stuff?
Well, good morning, George. My understanding is the administrative cost for health insurance runs about 40%. Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not aware of that. Where did you get that number?
Oh, gosh, it's been over a year.
Okay, but it's out there somewhere.
Yeah, if someone has access to a better number, I'd like to hear it. But 40% is significant. So if your premiums are $1,000 a month, $400 of that is administrative costs. And now your insurance guy, he doesn't draw the blood or do the X-ray or any of that. He just, your doctor sends him a bill and they pay it, but sometimes they don't pay it.
That's true.
And for that, you pay 40% extra.
Well, why is that? Why is it so high? Do you have an idea?
I call it rationing for profit. They ration your health care for profit. Well, you go in and let's say that you've got arthritis in a joint, and the doctor recommends, it's time to replace your knee or your hip or whatever that it is. And you go in, you get it done, and they send the insurance company, I don't know, what is it, $100,000 for a joint replacement.
Is that true? Holy smokes.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it is. And so your insurance company has the option. We can pay it or not. Now, they're bankers, right? That's what they do. They do the banking.
Yeah.
So if you get paid and you put your paycheck, even automatic deposit into your bank, then you go buy a tank of gas, and let's say you pay $100 because you got a big car, and they forward that to your bank, and your bank says, no, we're not going to pay that.
Yeah. Interesting. Let me ask you, who do you have for health insurance right now?
I'm actually with Kaiser.
And what do you think of Kaiser? Because I'm telling you, what I hear from some people, although some texters have come in and said, we love it. And they're like, man, it just feels so stifled, so bureaucratic. I feel like I don't have a lot of choices there. What's your experience?
It's been really good. Well, for one thing, with Kaiser, I went and saw a doctor for a surgery. I had a problem in my hand. The first doctor looks at it and said, I wouldn't do it. If I went in, I would, do this and this and this and this. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother. And so months later, I went in and talked with another doctor, and she said, oh, yeah, I could fix that. And, most of the people that I know that I've talked with that don't like Kaiser, they don't have any health issues. They go in, they're the lucky ones that are very healthy, don't have the chronic issues that I've got. So when you turn 65, they get to dump you off on the Medicare. Do you know what the administrative cost is of Medicare?
No.
Try 3%.
Yeah. Well,
so
I don't know. I don't
know.
I want to look at those things because that's a big difference. Those numbers are a big difference.
Yeah, and I've had pre-existing conditions since grade school, well documented in middle school, crippling by the time I was in engineering school, and the symptoms continue to stack up decade after decade.
Yeah.
And I can't work for a private entity, an office with 10 people. My medical bills, well, in fact, I have an acquaintance that her boss had, I guess it was liver disease. He ended up with a liver transplant. So the boss got the transplant, and it was hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then before coming back, left the company. And the next year, the contract for that group came in, and their premiums doubled.
Yeah. Yeah,
and,
listen,
and the boss isn't even
clearly
there
the system's
anymore.
broken, but I'm going to have to look at the Medicare thing. I cannot believe that is a better, more efficient system that leads to more liberty and better healthcare. There was a texter in here. I'm sorry, I can't find it because there's been so many, but was saying that, listen, you go to government provided healthcare, you lose a lot of the ingenuity, you lose a lot of the innovation, a lot of the top-notch people end up going somewhere else because government provided stuff.
I don't buy that.
I do. I mean, why would somebody go into debt hundreds of thousands of dollars to become a doctor if their compensation is capped by the government? Why would you invest in research for drugs if you're going to be capped? Your risk is limitless, but your gain is going to be capped by the government. I mean, it just seems like it discourages people from jumping in.
Yeah, well, the thing is that your doctor can recommend, well, after the surgery, you should have some therapy, like on a knee replacement. The therapy is pretty extensive for a few weeks, and they can opt to pay that or not pay that. And if you're diabetic and you don't happen to have a good job, you're on your own. And then you got crazy stuff like these $10 worth of insulin costing over $1,000 a month or something crazy like that. That's nuts. That's insane. That's criminal.
Yeah, I don't know if it's criminal, but it's certainly outrageous. Hey, you got to do me a favor here, Bob. Thank you for holding a great conversation, but I have to cut away for a break. And I'm not going to take the break right now because I want to get Ron too before I get there. So I need that extra time. You need time to pick up the phone and call a special number for a special person. His name is Dan Kaplis. And Dan Kaplis doesn't deal. Let me tell you what Dan Kaplis does when it's related to health coverage. This is a great segue into this. I tell you all the time about how Dan and Bob are out there crushing it for victims in and out of court when they're hurt by someone else. But sometimes when you are an attorney who fights for injured victims, you're confronted with issues like, how do we pay for the health care that I need right now? Like, I don't have sufficient coverage. I don't have the means to pay for it. Why should I be on the hook to pay for all this stuff while we chase down some company and they're fighting over coverage or whatever it is? Healthcare is different. You can also, with an experienced attorney like Dan, figure out ways to get the upfront costs of the healthcare that you need right now taken care of as you work through the process of either, if it's going to be settlement, great. If it's going to trial, even greater for them. You can do that. Not every attorney that works the way Dan does in the civil justice arena has that kind of experience, that kind of information, and that kind of expertise to get you into the end zone on the thing that matters most, and that is trying to get you back to a place as close to what you were before someone else hurt you. You want to talk with someone who has that know-how? Give them a call at 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or you can check them out at dankapleslaw.com. Kaplis has a C, dankapleslaw.com. Going right back to the phone lines. Ron, you're on 710 KNUS. Ron, what do you think?
Thank you, Colonel. Well, I spent 20 some years in the medical industry.
Yeah, doing what? What were you doing?
Well, I was a salesman. So I was in hospitals and doctors' offices and in the operating room, all over the Midwest and Colorado.
Yeah.
One of the things that the gentleman was correct and not. An average hospital has 2,000 to 3,000 employees. There's only two revenue sources in a hospital. One is surgery. One is pharmacy.
Selling body parts. What?
One is pharmacy.
Pharmacy.
So there are no other revenue sources within the hospital to pay for 2,000 employees, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's why a pill is $27.
Huh.
the administrative costs, that word encompasses the kitchen, all the kitchen employees, all the janitors, all the maintenance people that you never see.
Yeah.
So there's probably, there are so many people that need to be paid on a very limited basis of cash coming in.
Well, when you hear this conversation, Ron, and I hadn't considered those costs either, what's the fix? I mean, if Ron had 30 seconds to fix this problem, and that's all I can give you, what would you say?
Well, you let the system take care of itself. For example, in a hospital, in the wintertime, you might have 5 broken legs come in at one time. And let's say, and 2 of them are uninsured. The doctors rotate, the orthopedic doctors rotate within that hospital, and it's next man up to do the free surgery.
Yeah.
Vendors will bring in the sutures for the free surgery. It's just a part of what happens during the day. Then hospitals rotate. Denver Health used to be the free place.
Yeah.
They kind of said you can't do that anymore. So they rotate hospitals. That's how people get taken care of in serious situations who need health care.
But Ron, are you saying then that the system as it is good enough, or we don't need any major overhaul?
You know, I don't know how to answer that, but I know for watching it for 30 years, it worked. And you didn't have hospitals closing.
Yeah.
Now that you have all this intervention, you know, Billy was talking about universal health care.
Yeah.
The difference between that and what we have is in England, the top doctor, 5-star general, actually is a government agent. He decides if they're going to do the surgery. So government agents decide whether or not you're going to get your surgery done, or you're going to lay there for a while, or your test. Yeah. Here, the hospital goes to United Healthcare. There's an in-between that protects you and me. And they have doctors that evaluate cases, and they decide, okay, go ahead and do it. Kaiser, I'm the wrong person to talk to because I went through 8 months of hell with my son in Kaiser. What this guy didn't tell you is the appointment to see another doctor is 6 months down the road.
Oh boy.
It is not, and physical therapy is not once a month. It's once a week. It's once every 6 weeks.
Wow.
They had a massive number of people left. I would recommend you find yourself an agent to look through and sort through all these policies.
Yeah.
Kaiser, I would stay away.
Ron, I've heard that before too. It's just interesting to get the different perspectives from people based mostly just on their own personal experiences, and they seem pretty varied. Ron, I can't thank you enough. I love it when subject matter experts like Ron call up. Bob had some great thoughts. I love that. Listen, now we're out of time here for this segment. I got to cut away for a break. We won't have a ton of time when we come back, but we're going to make the most of it. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Where did the time go for the love of Pete Boyles? I don't know what happened there, but you guys, between Billy and me and you, the texts, the phone calls, the Kathleen Chandlers, the Tony Hartsooks, we somehow gobbled up 4 hours of radio. It's impossible to imagine. You know, as long as we're on the healthcare topic, have you ever considered what you would do if you didn't have dental insurance? Well, let me tell you something. My dentist, Doctors Richter and Snyder, I guess that's dentists, down there at Twin Aspen Dental Center, they've already thought of that thing. They've already got a plan in place for you where they can offer a product that allows you to do everything that you want to do, including emergency dental services. God hope you don't ever need those, but a reduced fee dental membership plan that allows you and your family to receive preventative care in addition to the quality dental treatment at reduced prices. That tells you two things. One, they get it, man. The insurance thing isn't always available to working people like you and I, or retirees for that matter, but they're also in this for the long game and the community. It's not just, hey, how can we get the most amount of money for what we do? It's how can we make you a member of our office, of our community? And I'm telling you, you go down there, you're going to love it. I did. It was an easy transition for me. Very, very fortunate to have them right down there off of Parker Road and Stroh, right by Lehman Academy. Easy to get to them and ask them about their reduced fee dental membership plan. It's 303-841-7466, 303-841-7466. You can also check them out at Twin Aspen Dental Center. All 4 words all made into one, twinaspendentalcenter.com. Now, listen, I don't have time to do all the text and stuff right here. I'm just going to read a couple of quick Google search suggests that administrative costs for health insurance is from 15 to 30%. And he was right about Medicare, administrative costs being under 5%. However, that's not the only thing to evaluate when deciding which insurance is better. Most people would rather have private insurance than Medicare. I believe that too. Something else I wanted to tell you. Here's what we didn't get to. We're going to talk about this tomorrow. There is some absolutely bonkers small town DA chaos out there in the rurals. There are 2 of the 22 judicial districts that feel like there's stuff there where you're like, I can't believe this is happening in 2023. I can't either. The players involved, the issues that concerns. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Also, Cherry Hills has put out a notice that there are folks that are coming to your house to break in there and steal your stuff with you in the house. What can you do to protect yourself? Well, the law makes it super sweet. We're going to talk about that more in detail tomorrow as well. Stick around for Jimmy at 3 and probably Randy at 4. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.